He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. A programming note, Tuesday here at the Boston Public Library, we're going to have Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, here for Ask the Attorney General from 11 to 12, and then a double hitter, Ask the Mayor, Michelle Wu, from noon to 1. Good morning, Jim.
Hey there. I have more programming notes.
Oh, you
a little
do?
later on the show, we'll talk to magician Penn and Gillette. Penn Gillette, as in Penn and Teller. We're also going to hear live music from the fabulous Rebels ahead of their midwinter show.
Oh,
and
my
they're going to
gosh.
ask you
Where do you
to
hear
sing
them?
along. They're fabulous. Adrian Walker from the Boston Globe will be here on their series about the notorious The Stewart murder from 1989. And we'll end the show with our buddy Ryan Landry and his fabulous Christmas show playing in South Boston. Right now until noon, we're joined by MBTA General Manager and CEO Philip Eng, a very brave man, for an inaugural edition. We hope it's an inaugural edition of Ask the GM. Phil, a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Marjorie.
Yeah,
By the
thank
way,
you.
can I say, in addition, if people have questions, they can not only call 877-301-8970, and if you're here at the library, Ethan, raise your hand. Thank you, Ethan. Ethan, our colleague, and Nicole, maybe a little later, will be sitting there. Walk over to him, fill out a little thing, and you too can speak directly to the GM. Welcome again.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in to take our questions and audience questions. So, not to pick on you right away, but did you take the T to get here, or did you drive, or how'd you get here?
Absolutely took the green line.
You
Got off
did?
at Copley, yes.
Oh, wow. From where?
From Arlington, I hit this one stop.
One stop, and how'd that go for you?
Smooth.
You left last night, though, right? Is that the... No, I don't think you like those kind of jokes.
One stop is not that far, Jim.
That's pretty good.
Okay. So tell us, $24 billion is the money that has been talked about. Well, no, before we do that, we should just give a nice... You've been here for 8 months, I think?
Yes.
It's every day there's another story about something going wrong at the T. How's it been going?
Well, you know, I always tell the staff and I tell folks, the reason that there's so much written about us and talked about us is because the T serves the public in a manner that is so vital to everybody. It's about quality of life. It's about serving people and communities and connecting. So certainly having whether it's positive stories or stories about where we can improve, that's normal, and
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that because people do need to hear when we have challenges, but people also need to hear that we are making progress, and we really are. We have started to turn the corner, and I'm sure we'll get into that in the hour.
So is the media worse in Boston than it is in, you get the Daily News, you get the New York Post, you get the New York Times, you get all these rough and tumble media outlets in New York City. Who's worse?
I would say they're all doing their job, and it's perfect.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I have to say, Phil, we're going to get to the calls in a second at 877-301-8970. I want to be you when I grow up, and I mean it. When things go wrong, you appear to stay, at least from my limited experience with, incredibly calm. Just yesterday, the Globe's reporting, one day at least reporting, a tool breaks, there's shrapnel in the leg of a T worker. The third rail, I think on an Orange Line train, is turned on before people who are doing work leave, obviously raising electrocution issues. How do you deal as a human, as a leader, with this endless litany, while you are making progress, and we're going to get to that, how do you deal with the litany of nightmares, headaches, almost daily?
Well, you know, the job that we're in is a very complex and inherently challenging environment, right? You do have power, you do have moving trains, and we're 24/7. So what we try to do is be balanced. We really need to be, because every day there is something else that we need to tackle. And at the same time, we are trying to ensure that we're delivering that reliable service for our public, right? So it really is trying to stay level-headed and look to how do we solve those problems? How do we improve the environment for our employees? And, you know, so the incident you mentioned was to replace those tools. We pulled those tools out, and we were able to procure the rubber covers that would make it safer for our workforce. That's very important to us, because as we're asking the workforce to continue to deliver, and to deliver in ways that over the next year is going to be a tremendous amount of work, we need them to know that we are focused on their well-being.
But if I may make at least a distinction as an outsider, you're going to talk, I know, in a few minutes about your public commitment to deal with all the slow zones by December of 2024, which, if it happens, is terrific. But it seems to me the kind of things I just mentioned, that reported in the Globe, are sort of a cultural kind of thing. And you're not, I hope you're nodding in agreement. And if you are, and if that's true, how do you fix that part of the problem?
Well, from the very beginning, safety will always be paramount, even before I got here. The whole thing with the FTA and the safety management report was about how the T needs to improve safety. Part of that is ensuring that our employees have the right tools and equipment, right direction, right training, and that gets to changing the culture. What we've been doing over the recent last few months, and even earlier on, but more formally, is going out and meeting and greeting with all of our frontline employees. When the work was ongoing, I have senior leadership out there watching and observing, because everywhere we could see that we need to improve, we are doing that, right? And there are things that we are seeing where, as we demonstrate that commitment, people are being more upfront too, and they're raising those concerns. I think in the past, there's been this feeling that if I raise it and it doesn't get addressed, then I'm going to stop bringing it up. We are turning the corner. The employees are speaking up, and they're actually embracing the changes that are happening. And you could see it when you go out and watch the track workers. And, you know, just we're probably talking about the hiring, but a lot of the new track workers that are out there, you should see just how much they've learned in the very beginning of their engagement and out there. Tightening bolts, laying rail, changing ties. It's fantastic to see.
That's the voice of Philip Eng, GM of the T. He's with us for this hour. You can talk to him directly. The lines are full, but when one opens up at 877-301-8970.
We'll get to the calls in just a second, but I just, Taylor Dolvin and some of her colleagues, including Laura Comandi at the Globe, have done some great reporting on the T. And one of their recent stories just from a few weeks ago talked about how for 15 years people have been talking about, experts have been talking about the T not investing enough in maintaining and updating its infrastructure. There's a lot of talk about how much governor's offices really didn't want, including Deval Patrick, and we'll see about Maura Healey, but Charlie Baker weren't keen on talking about how bad things were at the T. And just from this one story, 64% of T assets need replacing. 89% of track, assuming the Globe is correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, is not in good repair. Half of the subway trains and buses not in good repair. The commuter rail needing electrification. It goes on and on and on about these things that have been there for years and years and years. So when you talk about this $24 billion number to repair and update the system as a planning tool, it seemed to me that with this state of disrepair, even though the governor says we don't need $24 billion right now, maybe we do. I mean, it's in bad shape.
Well, as much as everyone would love to see $24.5 billion now, we wouldn't be able to spend that now.
Okay.
Right? So that's part of it, right? It is a planning tool, and for the first time, or at least the first time in, I think, since the last capital needs assessment, I'm proud of what the team did, because they actually have gone through a very thorough asset management program to identify all of our assets and the current conditions of our assets. And that's how that was based on, to develop those different costs for the different components. And you mentioned the amount of track that is not in a state of good repair. I think that's consistent, unfortunately, with the performance of our system, right? So those numbers, when you start to look at them, actually demonstrate that it is based on existing conditions where we need to go. Now, having said that, this enables us now to have that dialogue with regards to how do we fund the T? How do we keep the ability to keep the T moving? And really what it is going to be an opportunity to talk about what are the long-term needs and hopefully some steady revenue where we can be able to plan. So depending upon how much is made available, that's how we will plan our strategy. It doesn't mean we can't keep the system safe. It doesn't mean we can't keep it running, because that's what we're doing over the next year and a half. We are improving safety. We're going to improve the reliability, and we will get it back to where people want to ride the T more.
So we'll return to the whole $24 billion thing and where it's come from, but there are a ton of calls. So let's start with them. Ray in Watertown. You're on with Philip Eng, the GM of the T. Welcome, Ray.
Hi, thank you for taking my call, and nice to meet you, Mr. Eng. I think you would agree that having a dedicated and well-trained workforce is important to the T's success. And I just wanted to alert you to my husband's experience. He joined the MBTA as a bus driver in July. And as I've watched him go through this, I see examples of things that really could be improved to maintain a good workforce. And I'd like to just give you two examples. One is, since he joined the T in July, he gets his schedule for the following day only the day before. So I don't know how that would work for someone who has, for example, child care or other care responsibilities. This has been going on since July, and it won't be until the end of December that he'll actually get his schedule a couple months in advance.
What's
That's
the
my
second thing,
first
Ray,
example.
if you would? Yes, please.
Second thing is, during the first 6 weeks of training, he had to go to a classroom-based training situation. He was told at the time, do not take the T to get here because it's too unreliable and you won't get here on time. I'm serious.
Oh,
At
gosh.
that time, we were sharing one car. He was warned that if he brought a cell phone with him and it was found on his property in his backpack, he would be fired instantly. There were no accommodations made for people to place a cell phone, for example, into a lockbox. They were told, lock it in your car.
Hey, Ray, before
This is ludicrous.
before Phil Eng responds, how's your husband like the job other than this? That's a serious question.
You know, he likes the job.
Great.
He's actually met you, Mr. Eng. You
Great.
stepped onto his bus one day when he was helping someone.
Great. Hey, Ray, let's have Philip Eng answer your two concerns. Thanks for the call. Take it away.
Well, Ray, thank you first and foremost for calling in. And I want to thank your husband for being part of the T team. It's fantastic. And that is all part of the hiring effort. With regards to the schedules and how we can improve the experience for our workforce, I've met and talked with a lot of the frontline bus operators, and that's just one of the things that has been brought to our attention. So our leadership team is looking at that. I do have a new Chief Operating Officer, Ryan Caholen, who is taking over, and he is working with our bus schedulers and all. Part of the hiring also allow us to improve our schedules and eliminate some of the other concerns that they have, such as the split shifts and the long breaks in between. So we are focused on improving the environment for our operators. With regards to being told not to take the T, I don't know about how I'd answer that one. I still take the T everywhere, and I'm making it on time. And I think that as we continue to improve our system, we will even do that more. And last and foremost, I understand how challenging environment being a bus operator is. It's not easy to navigate the streets in a car. Imagine navigating it in a bus and having all the people that you carry and rely on you. But I am truly honored to know that those folks are doing what they do day in and day out. Holidays, nights, weekends. It's a tough environment.
Hold on,
You
we should
mentioned the
remind people that before you came, the T was having difficulty hiring bus drivers, and one of the reasons was that they required people to work part-time. I forget if it was 3 months or something like that. So of course they couldn't afford to take the job, and this kind of went on, and no one really questioned it until it was in the paper. That was shortly before you. That's changed now, right?
Absolutely, that's changed.
Yeah.
We had worked out an agreement, a new contract with the Carmen's Union 589. We are very pleased with that because, first and foremost, we knew that attracting bus operators, and I talked about the tough environment for them, we were not compensating them appropriately. The contract allowed us to pay them over $30 an hour. We are now competitive with the private sector bus operators.
Okay.
So what was happening is people would come in, get trained, get certified, and then they would go for other opportunities.
How is the hiring going? You've mentioned it a few times. You seem to be
Hiring-
happy with it?
Absolutely. Even before I took this role, Governor Healy and her administration were very focused on our workforce. They knew that you cannot rebuild the T if you don't have a strong workforce. The supplemental budget from the governor, $20 million, gave us the ability to actually enter into these negotiations with confidence that we could afford it. The hiring right to date is over 1,300 new hires to the T. That's the best hiring we've ever had in our history. And the bus operators, after that contract, the applications just exploded. We are becoming the entity of choice to work for again.
How many people left while the 1,300 were being hired? What was the net increase in employment?
Well, what we are seeing right now, we anticipate being around net by the end of the year, close to 700 new employees.
Let's go. I'm sorry. Finish.
No, I was going to say the contract also included incentives for longevity and incentives for folks who chose not to retire. So those things we actually saw slow down the attrition.
Let's go to Derek in Weymouth. You're on with Philip Eng. Welcome, Derek.
Hi, I hope you can hear me okay, and
Yep.
I'm very excited to have you on the job. I am very encouraged from what I hear so far. What I want to say was my wife has recently started taking the commuter rail from Weymouth into Boston, trying to get off the road and not spend an hour in traffic. I think we can all agree that having more people on public transit is great. So she's done the math, and, it's about $7 for the train ticket. It works out to about the amount of gas that she's spending. She's much happier on the train. But what we find is there's a parking lot there that is costing maybe $6.50 in addition to the $7 ticket. That parking lot, I just drove by a little while ago, practically empty. Why are we charging and doubling the cost of commuting and leaving an empty parking lot when we can have that, say, free and encourage people to take the train and not double their cost?
Derek, thanks for the question. We appreciate it.
Well, Derek, thank you for that, and thank you for your wife for taking the commuter rail. The ridership actually has been more robust and returning on this commuter rail system, and that's partly because of the on-time performance of the rail. It's over close to 94%, which is really an industry standard. With regards to parking fees and fares, those are all things that we have to look at. I'm not familiar exactly with that parking lot and the fare structure there. And I understand how everyone during these challenging times are trying to balance expenditures. I am happy, though, that his wife is enjoying the commuter trip. I myself enjoy riding on the system, and commuter rail is one of the best ways to go.
Thank you, Derek, for the call. How is ridership overall in terms of its comparison today to pre-pandemic on the T?
Well, the commuter rail side is actually, if you take a look at some FTA and FRA information, our commuter rail is probably the most robust in terms of return of ridership. Probably close to 90% of our riders have come back, whereas some of our sister agencies probably around 70%. The subway side is, I think, in that range of 70% as well, but also know that one of the things that we're very focused on is improving that system so people can come back and know that they have that as a viable option. And I think as we continue to deliver on all of the work that we're doing and demonstrate that we can provide the level of service they need, they will start to see that that is a very attractive way to travel.
We have a text from Mary from Weymouth. She's a Greenbush commuter, and she says she wants to know about changing commuter rail services, current one train an hour. So her choice is to be early for work on a seriously overcrowded train, or being late for work on a less crowded train.
Frequency of commuter rail, frequency and reliability is something that I know makes a difference on people choosing mass transportation. I know the commuter rail side has worked very hard on certain corridors to improve the frequency, and we are going to continue to work on that. Some of it is related to how much rolling stock do we have? I mean, how many cars do we have, right? Also, do you have the ability to run more trains? And sometimes, not to get too much into the weeds, do we have the yards to be able to stage those trains in the morning to be able to run them more frequently? But we are looking at how we can improve commuter rail service, and that is something that, working with Mike Muller, who is my executive director of railroad ops, we are focused on improving railroad service. Frequency, I know it. If it's not there, it makes it a tough choice.
Let's go to Adam in Boston. You're on with Philip Eng. Welcome, Adam.
Yes, good morning, Jim and Roger. Thank you for having me on, and thank you, GM Eng, for all of the work you're doing. We really want the T to succeed, and thank you for all your work. Hope it gets better and keeps getting better. My question is about subway frequencies. I know you just touched on that with commuter rail. When will we see the frequency of subway service return to the pre-June 20th, 2022 levels when it was cut? And we were told that once we hired the amount of dispatchers that service would be restored. I think that service every 15 minutes on some of the subway lines is really not conducive to making people want to ride it. Thank you so much for addressing this. I really appreciate all your work.
Thank for the question, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. So the dispatchers are certainly a key part. They operate in our operation control center. They are responsible for train movement, but that's not the only piece of improving the frequency on our subway lines. Part of it is also tied to the fact that we do have all these different track conditions and speed restrictions throughout the system. That does slow down the trains, and that does inhibit the ability to run them more frequently. That's something, obviously, as we continue to lift those speed restrictions and get trains back, you will see frequency improve. And a good example of that was when we tackled the Blue Line this past summer, right? We finished the work in advance of the Sumner Tunnel closure, and we were able to get that frequency down to under 6 minutes on a regular basis. So that's what will happen as you see the work that we're doing on green and red and orange. Those frequencies will become more, shorter.
Adam, thank you. You know, one of the things that candidate Wu talked about a lot, including on our show and everywhere else, was freeing the T. Obviously, there's a free bus pilot, I think, on 3 bus routes. I think it ends in March. What would you be recommending post-March, and have you been discussing this with the mayor?
Well, first and foremost, thank you to the city and the mayor for the funding to be able to provide those free buses. It is a good way to examine ridership, and it's something that I know that the mayor's very invested in terms of being able to provide that. As far as free fares across the system, or if that's the question.
Well, the question is, how about those 3 routes? Forget expansion. How about continuing free bus service on those routes post-March? Is that something you're contemplating? What are you going to say to her?
We're open to that. We're talking with the city with regards to that. So
Is your expectation that it will continue post-March?
I believe that's the intention. Yes.
Great.
You know, Philip Eng, and we're talking with Philip Eng, who's the general manager of the MBTA. 877-301-8970 is the number to call, text at. A couple of weeks ago, maybe it was less than that even, we had Ian Cross on, who's just done a great podcast associated with GBH on the Big Dig. If you haven't listened to it, it's really terrific to listeners. He ended it with a scene at 4:30 in the morning over in Medford by Tufts when the new Green Line expansion was opening up, and it was a great moment. People are cheering, and it's still dark outside, and they're so excited that the T is going to be over there. And Ian Cross is talking about one of the big problems today is people don't trust government to be able to do big things like expand the T or do something like the Big Dig. And he talked about winning hearts and minds. And it was a very emotional scene. Then, of course, unfortunately for Ian Cross, shortly after we finished the podcast, was when we discovered that these T tracks were too narrow in that section of the newly rebuilt Green Line. So I just wanted to ask you, I know that they knew that people knew about this with the T in April of 2021 and forged ahead nonetheless. And now massive parts of these tracks are going to have to be fixed. So number one, how does something like this happen? And number two, who's going to pay for this and be held responsible?
So, public works is something that, if you look around, we have a tremendous amount of public works, and we should be proud of those public works. Every project does have issues that arise, and I think I talked about this, unfortunately, as you mentioned, in April of 2021, when those indications that we had rails that were too close together, and that was due to a prefabrication of the ties. That should have been when this was paused. Let's take a look.
Right.
Do we have a bigger issue? Unfortunately, it was allowed to continue to progress, and we have significant amount of areas where it has to be put to the right dimensions.
It's almost the whole line. Is it not almost the whole 4.5 miles or something?
It is significant portions.
Okay.
I believe it's about 80% of the Medford Tufts branch and about 50% of Union.
Okay.
And we are holding them accountable. We have told the design build team that this is their responsibility, that should have been done properly in the first place.
Can I say, first of all, I'm incredulous as a person who doesn't do what you do, that a huge percentage of this track can be too narrow. It's called the gauge, right? I learned that. That's what that, okay, fine. Two, while you say, and I appreciate this, holding them accountable, meaning they're going to have to pay for the fix, is anybody going to be held accountable for the cover-up? I mean, I know you're not a prosecutor, but at least according to the Globe reporting, as you and Marjorie said, in April of 2021, the guy who was the manager of the expansion, John Dalton, was told about this. He now, of course, will not talk to the Globe because that's the way people who act irresponsibly deal with the press. Is anybody going to, it's one thing to say to the people who did it, you're going to have to pay for it. Well, we caught you, now you have to give the money back you stole from the bank. Is there any talk about holding people accountable who essentially deceived the public and, according to Charlie Baker's representative, deceived their boss, the governor of the Commonwealth?
Well, I wasn't here when that occurred.
I know, of course.
And I don't know what went through, the minds during that period. I do know that...
But you do know they didn't tell the public.
I do know that that was not publicly disclosed. I do know that if you go back in time, again, they had an opportunity back in April of 2021 to actually figure out if this was a larger scale issue. Unfortunately, that was not done. There were several people that were still part of that team here when I found out about it, and I did hold them accountable. They are no longer
gone,
working
yeah.
for us at the T.
Does this not, as a man who has a reputation like yours over decades in the industry, does this not offend you? No, I'm serious. As a person, that this kind of lack of transparency and I don't know, I would feel, if I had known that the gauge was too narrow, I would have been nervous whether or not you as an expert in this. Does it not offend you in some ways that they did this and at least the head guy is, no accountability has been exacted?
Well, I am very focused myself of how we address this problem right now. The goal of mine is to make sure we tackle this once and for all. With regards to those decisions made and things that I would not have done myself, I think what really hurts is that, and I think Margie talked about it, public works and the ability to deliver. And you lose public trust when you don't do these things. And it's very hard for me to say we need more funds if we're not spending the dollars appropriately. So I'm very focused right now on our leadership team, our workforce, to be able to show that we can deliver mega projects, that we can deliver even basic maintenance in a proper manner. And that's why some of the things that we're doing now with the current green line closures that we just finished was to be able to give our folks the time to do the work. On the overnights, you literally only have 1 to 2 hours to be able to do work, and that's a lot of pressure for the employees to go in and do things, right? But with the Green Line work that we just accomplished, with the closure from North Station to Heath, Babcock, and Kenmore, we were able to do more speed restriction than originally planned, and that is following successes on Ashmont Mattapan, where we are running at full line speed. So those are the types of things where now you're getting more production, it's more efficient, and you're actually accomplishing the work that you set out to do. And I think that's where we want to demonstrate. I want to look forward with regards to how the T and our current workforce deliver. Those things in the past, that's going to be very thoroughly reviewed, and we'll have to tackle that.
Okay, just one more related question. I promise I'll drop it. So someone comes to you, I don't know how you found out, and you find out that they covered up this thing since April of 2021, now disclosed. What was your immediate reaction?
You said earlier that I kind of stay level-headed.
As far as I know, I don't know you in private. Go ahead.
I think I was a little surprised that we would not have tackled this, or I should say very surprised, but what I really was, how do we fix it now?
I got it.
Because really it's about making sure the public knows it's safe, they can take the system, but we have a plan moving forward.
You know what I wonder, Philip Eng? I mean, you were in New York before you came here, worked there for many, many years, and they have a pretty old system too, but it, from at least my experience in New York, my children's there, runs. It runs and it goes pretty fast. So what's the difference? Is there a different political climate, or I know that Second Avenue extension cost a fortune, but it's beautiful. Are they in as bad a shape as we are? And if they're not, why not?
Well, I know, and I don't want to comment on everyone's system, but I know many of the systems across the country are facing similar challenges. There are concerns with the amount of investment that is needed. We're not the only agency that does need additional dollars. In fact, when I was at New York City Transit, the system did need an investment. They needed, we called it the $836 million subway action plan, but that was to tackle infrastructure that were failing. And when I was at Long Island Railroad, similar thing. Long Island Railroad Forward Plan was to address those conditions, switches, track conditions, drainage concerns, power, things that were bringing back the system to reliable. And what happens is that we need to make sure that we invest in our system, state of good repair, that we invest in our workforce. Those are all the things that we're doing right now, and that's why we will be giving back the public the system they deserve, and then continuing to build towards the future, because that's not only to get back to where we were once before, but how do we envision the future to be able to serve future generations?
We're talking to the general manager of the MBTA, Philip Eng. He's going to be with us until noon. You can reach him at 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browding, Marge Regan, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. There was a problem with YouTube. It's been fixed. Facebook.com/GBH News. If you're just joining us, we are joined by MBTA General Manager Philip Eng. He's here for Ask the GM. During the break, you said to us, Phil, please have me back here regularly to answer questions. Is that what you said? I can't remember.
Absolutely. Just one stop on the green line.
Exactly.
That's right, one stop on the green line.
If you want to talk to or text Mr. Eng, you can do it at 877-301-8970.
We have Tammy available here at the Boston Public Library microphone who would like to talk to Philip Eng. Go ahead, Tammy.
Hey,
Thank
Tammy.
you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. I want to say the first thing I did for my birthday was get my senior Charlie card. I love my senior Charlie card. I love the bus drivers. They do such a good job. They have such a hard job. The bike lanes have made it almost impossible for them. I just came on Berkeley Street. They put another bike lane in. One lane for everybody. It's crazy everywhere. I just want to tell you that I appreciate the bus drivers. I hope they can get a raise someday. And what do you think about the bus lanes? They just make everything awful.
Bike lanes, you mean?
Yeah,
What do you think of the bike lanes? Yeah.
The bike lanes have made it so hard. Up Mass Ave towards South Bay Mall, one lane now. South Huntington Ave, one lane now. The bus drivers have such a hard job, and I really want to tell you that I appreciate them so much, and I've never had a bad bus ride. So thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Tammy. That was
Tammy,
Thank you very much, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I agree that the bus operators do have a very challenging job, and thank you for being a rider as well. The importance about mass transportation, it's just one option that people have in terms of how do you get from one place to another place. And I really do believe in, having given my past roles, that it is a multimodal system. We have to find a way to have a balance between whether it's taking the T, whether you want to walk, whether you want to ride a bike, or whether you want to drive a car, and other modes. The importance is, how do we design these elements so they can all work together? And I think the challenge is, you have a limited corridor where you already have streets that were designed for vehicular traffic originally, and now you're introducing new modes. And it is a balance. And every time we look to work to those, whether it's bus lanes, bike lanes, the engineers and the designers will really work hard to make sure it's safe. I do understand the importance of giving our bus operators the ability to do their jobs properly and safely.
We have a lot of people texting about fares, saying people don't, the T workers don't collect the fares. Here's one from Melissa in Charlestown, says, are you aware, Mr. Eng, that people with Charlie cars on the ride can ride the ferries for free because employees don't have scanners? She appreciates the free ride, but seriously. And then we have somebody talking about collectors not collecting tickets from South Station on the Worcester line. I guess it's a 50% effort. This person rides 4 days a week. They're wondering why the conductors don't collect more often. Then you have the one I've heard forever about people getting on the second train on the Green Line, coming down Beacon Street, that they get in and they don't pay their fares. I think that's because the trains are so crowded. But anyway, what's going on with fares? Is this system-wide or what?
Well, fares are obviously an important part of our funding source. They do represent about a third of our operating revenue, and that's important to us. The ability to collect fares, and I've heard some of those concerns as well, are important to us. We are working with our partners at the Commuter Rail and Keolis with regards to those comments that have been brought up to our attention, and they are also working on how to address that. With regards to crowded Green Line trains and things of that nature, on one hand, I'm happy when they're crowded because that means people are using our system. We are working on a new fare collection system that I'm excited about that will enable people to better, easier pay their fares, contactless payment, something that's currently being tested right now and very optimistic of.
Because sometimes there's only one driver on a two-train Green Line, so there's no one on the second train anyway, right?
Well, that's what some of the challenges, not just here at the T, in terms of how do you load people onto the trains faster. And if you only open one door, it takes much longer for people to be able to enter the train and exit the train. All-door boarding is something that is a big focus at a lot of places. At the same time, that does open it up to whether it's fare evasion or just not paying the fare. It does open up to those concerns on how we do that. Obviously, we will have readers at every door, and make announcements to require that people pay their fares.
Phil Eng, I'm sure you're listening to our show every day, and you're aware of the fact that Marjorie Egan has admitted on the air, this is an anonymous texter asking this, that she drives in the bus lanes.
Okay.
Because there often there's no bus. How do you feel about that?
Well,
be honest.
I know that the bus lanes are set aside so we can able to move more people more efficiently, reduce our carbon footprint. With regards to enforcement on the bus lanes, that's something that we do need to take a look at. How do we better do that? Because whether it's people using it, and I'm not going to say Marjorie's using it, but others are using it, or people are parking, we need to find a way to allow the bus operators to have that path to be able to get people where they should be and on time.
Philip, Jim wants me to be
nicer guy than
he wants
I
me
am.
to be arrested. Is basically what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about.
Marilyn, I didn't say that. I was just asking the head of the T. Marilyn and Brookline, you're next on Boston Public Radio with Philip Eng. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. So,
Sure.
I'm really glad that you're here, Mr. Eng. Excuse me. In the old days when they were working on the T and they replaced the trains with buses, they would go the whole route. And these days, sometimes they don't. I got really stuck the other day when I was trying to get to Cambridge, and I took the Green Line, and I got on the trolley, the bus at Babcock, and it went to Copley Place, and the subway stop was locked. And they wanted me to walk to the Orange Line, take the Orange Line to Downtown Crossing, walk to the Red Line from there, and then get it. And I would have missed my play doing that. So why don't you cover the whole route anymore?
Thanks, Marilyn.
Well, some of the operation planning with regards to these different diversions is taking a look at how we can continue to provide that alternative service when we're doing the work. I do understand what she talked about, because the intention along the central part of the tunnel where we had the tunnel work going on was to allow the Orange Line to be the alternative service. The other challenge is the more buses we use, and I understand how that adds to one convenience, there is a lot of traffic congestion as well, so the buses, they're not necessarily, to be able to accommodate that many buses through the heart of Boston is also another challenge. So that's why we were recommending the Orange Line, but I'll certainly take that comment back and share that information with our team as we look towards the future diversions.
What's the issue that's causing you the most frustration in your first 8 months? The one you see is, I don't want to say intractable, but the most difficult to address?
I don't know if I think it's the fact that they're all tied together, right? We needed to grow the workforce, and we're doing that in order to be able to deliver the work. We need to be able to get in and do the work, which means we do have to impact the way people travel, just as Marilyn said, because what we were doing in the old way, we were not making enough headway. So that is one of the things. How do you balance all these competing needs and deliver at the end what you've committed to?
You know, we were talking about your calmness a couple times. The one thing I wouldn't be calm about is the funding. You've referenced, as you just did, the $24 billion for repair and replace, but not expand as a planning tool. I'm so glad you said, you used the expression envisioning the future. So $24 billion to repair and replace, plus whatever the future is, according to you, whether it's, well, there are a whole variety of projects that people have been talking about. Do you have any confidence that the legislature, which has been at least historically averse to, in my opinion, doing adequate funding for the T, is going to come up with this? And I assume fare hikes, while you said not right now, around the $24 billion, fare hikes have got to be part of the mix, don't they?
Well, all of these things have to be discussed, right? Somehow we have to balance our budget. The legislature, we're constantly speaking with them with regards, and now that we have a figure that allows them to better understand our deficit in terms of how do we get to a state of good repair. Again, what I've talked with when I speak to the legislature is how do we come up with some consistent revenue stream that allows us to be able to plan. And that's where my responsibility comes in, because whatever that is allocated, and obviously the more the better, is going to allow us to be able to set in place proper preventive maintenance, corrective maintenance, but also then allows us to take a look at how do we deliver on those projects that modernize, that expand the system. And that's going to be something that I actually look forward to, because delivering a capital program is something that, as you talked about, Marjorie, part of the litmus test for an agency in terms of not just only keeping the system functioning today, it is building for the future.
Are we ever going to get those overdue, like red line cars and those things that are like
Yes.
infinitely behind?
I am confident that we will see more red line cars. We've been working very closely with CRSC. And for those who don't know, obviously rolling stock is a key part of providing that safe, reliable trip. The old orange line cars, the old red line cars, they were failing at a very high rate. The cars that we're receiving now from CRSC is performing greater than the contractual requirements. What we're working on now is getting the production up to where it should be. And I'm confident that we will start to see more and more cars.
Just one more thing on the money. We have Jim Aloisi and Stacy Thompson in all the time. They're like our transportation
They'll be here Monday.
gurus. And Jim Aloisi writes a lot in Commonwealth magazine. And he talks about how, I think I referenced this before, that the T's problems with funding go way back to 1991 with Paul Cellucci and Bill Weld that were governor and lieutenant governor back then. And they talk about legislators talking about this forward funding approach to the T that was a terrible idea. And he blames the persistent, stubborn refusal of the legislature to properly fund the T, et cetera, et cetera. And as Jim just said, you talked about talking to the legislature, but it does seem that the legislature has been loath to really give the T the kind of money it needs. And you always have these complaints, I've asked you this before, from legislators from like Sturbridge and far away from Boston saying, why should I be funding the MBTA? My constituents don't live there, et cetera. It's a tough sell, isn't it?
Well, I understand that concern, right? Everyone has a local constituency that they have to serve. At the same time, I serve the whole Commonwealth. My goal is to be able to demonstrate not only is it important to fund us, it's vital to fund us. We support the economy, we support businesses, we support quality of life. And without the T, I suspect the rest of the infrastructure would be overloaded. But I also believe that the best way to say fund us is to demonstrate that we can use that money wisely, efficiently, and deliver on the results that we're promising.
Let's go to Anita in Medford. You're on with Philip Eng. Hello, Anita.
Hello. I am calling about the bus network redesign. The effort to provide service to new communities is quite commendable, but there are a few issues. Providing service every 15 minutes all day to some areas means that service will be cut for many others. In my area, one well-used bus will be rerouted and it will have service reduced, including to every hour and a half after 7 p.m. The redesign eliminates and reroutes many buses. The director of bus transformation stated that replacing an eliminated or rerouted bus with another one up to half a mile away was considered adequate. This will place an untenable burden on the elderly and disabled, not to mention those with children carrying groceries or traveling in bad weather. And during development
Hey,
of the
Anita,
plan,
my apology. There's so many people who want to speak to Mr. Eng. Can you cut to the chase and pose a question?
Outreach during the development was inadequate, and I would like to ask if the general manager would commit to reviewing the entire project, including holding public meetings in every affected city and town, and having a full and fair comment period on the revised draft before anything is implemented.
Thank you, Anita. We appreciate your call.
Well, I've committed to having communication and transparency. Let me take that feedback and let me go back to the staff about with regards to the level that we've done before. But moving forward is always about improving communication. And then we'll always have the opportunity to have feedback, whether it's actual another public meeting or this feedback that we just got today. I understand how changing a bus route affects positively for some, negatively for others. Those are parts of the challenge that we have to make tough decisions. But I certainly understand how half mile might be okay for someone else, but it might not be okay for like today, I took one stop, even though I could have walked.
Anita, thank you. Jordan from East Boston texted you, Philip Eng. I wanted to talk to you today at the library, but I live in East Boston and know it will take forever to get there on the Green Line. Can you provide any realistic updates on the blue and red line connector?
Well, we are advancing the study for that. That is something that I know has been long talked about. I think if I get out ahead of those results of that study, it'd be hard to actually be accurate with what I say. But I do know that that is something that if we have connectivity between our systems, it does give people more flexibility on their routes. But I don't have that crystal ball yet to be able to share that.
You know, back to funding in the legislature, at what point does the T's operating budget go into shortfall? Is it calendar year 2024? And whenever it is, what's being done to prepare for that, Phil?
Well, that is something that we are still working through internally right now. We are meeting with A&F with regards to those...
Administration and Finance.
Administration and Finance, sorry about that,
That's
yes.
okay, sure.
Those are the things that when we have an opportunity to finally have some more information to share publicly, we will. But that is something that I know how important it is to balance our budget, and we're working very hard on that.
Let's go to Ed in the car. He's calling about escalators. I want you to know, Ed, that we're getting lots of texts about escalators as well. So you're on with Philip Eng. Go ahead.
Hi, Ed.
Thanks, folks. Yeah, I just want to say I understand the challenge of the T is massive. But the escalator at Porter Square goes to the center of the earth. It's so far down, and it's down more than it's up. And I can't understand. I can understand trying to fix the T is brutal, but why is it so difficult to keep the ancillary equipment, such as an escalator, up and running? You know, it's like a 2 weeks worth of stair stepping just to go to the T every day, and it doesn't seem as if that should be as challenging as some of the other massive challenges on the T itself.
Ed, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Well, escalators and stations are something near and dear to me. I do view them as like a gateway to our system, and I do view them as a very important part of a community. That's why I made an appointment that happened in August. Dennis Farley, who's my chief of stations. Actually, Dennis and I talk a lot about escalators and elevators and their availability to the public. That's something that he's working on. In some cases, the fact that they're out often it's because it's more than a maintenance issue now. It's becoming to the point where some of the escalators need to be fully replaced. And that's as we go into the next capital investment plan, which starts in earnest in next year, is how do we prioritize accessibility, those types of features that people rely on. Because I do understand how it is when they're out and you have a challenge with you going up or downstairs.
Oh, remember that was one of the T's greatest hits, the escalator going backwards and
Hell of
people
a
going
video.
backwards down the stairs, and which wasn't funny. Thank goodness nobody was badly hurt. You know what? This is another person that's talking about parking overnight in the T lots. This one particular person is talking about taking the Greenbush line when traveling to the airport, but he can't park overnight down in Stewart or Cohasset. Uber, Lyft won't take you for such short rides. And he wrote to the MBTA about being able to park overnight. Was told it was because of snow plowing, but of course he wrote in June. There's no snow in June. So is that a regular thing? No overnight parking in T lots?
I'll have to look into that, Margie, to be honest with you. The ability for people to use lots overnight, I think one of the challenges is that we've seen when you open up lots in that fashion, people leave vehicles longer than one night, and then that affects the people that need it on a regular basis. So there's a balancing act with regards to how the lots are made available. I don't know the specifics with regards to that one, though.
Yeah, I guess it'd be cheaper to be in an MBTA lot than park at Logan.
Hey, for the next caller from Somerville, we literally only have minutes, so please make it quickly. Is it Argent? Is that how you say your name?
Yes.
Argent, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm a former regional transportation planner, and I am stuck in hell between the Somerville Green Line and the Red Line, specifically Union Square. And instead of having faster service, we sit there, even sometimes between Union Square and Leechmere, for 10 minutes, and then maybe the next stop, the same thing. So, and then,
You gotta ask the question. I'm sorry, we're running out of time.
Sorry.
Okay, my question is, how can we make this transition going between the Green Line and the Red Line better? We need to have a bus.
We got it. Phil, please.
I'm not sure if she means, because Union goes to Leechmere, that's where I get on every day. So I'm trying to understand, the transition to red, meaning the connection furthest in
Hey,
the
Argent,
city.
you know what we're going to do? We're out of time. Stay on hold. Our colleagues will get your contact information, and I assume somebody from your office, Phil,
Sure,
can reach
absolutely.
out,
We'll
and you'll get an
follow up.
answer.
Yeah.
Argent, don't go away. We'll get it. Can I just say something to you before you go? Because I was joking about coming back, which I hope you will. For years and years, we've been doing the show almost a quarter of a century.
Yep.
All we talk about is the GM of the team not even answering a question from a reporter I'm talking about, or answering in an email. It's really terrific, whether people like what you have to say or not.
It's a
that you're willing to
revolutionary
come- no, I'm
moment
serious,
here
and answer
in-
questions directly from
in the
riders.
history of the tea.
You deserve a lot of praise
Yeah,
for that.
no, it's
You really
true.
do.
So this transparency problem is getting so much better, and thank you for that. Philip Eng is the general manager and CEO of the MBTA, and we do thank you very, very much for spending this hour with us.
Do it again
and do hope
soon.
you come back soon. After the new news, we're going to talk with GBH's Callie Crossley. She's here on new indictments against Hunter Biden, the AG's investigation into these neo-Nazis targeting these drag shows, and more. Callie Crossley is next. You're listening. Oh, and of course from the Culture Show, which is on today at 2 o'clock, right after us. Stay with us. You are listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Republican Elise Stefanik asked the president whether calls for genocide against Jewish people would violate campus harassment policies. Harvard's Claudine Gay said it would depend on the context. That answer has sparked outrage, even as some question the motives of Stefanik and others behind the hearing. Gay has since issued a statement saying a call for genocide would not be acceptable, and Penn President Elizabeth McGill recorded this video.
A call for genocide of Jewish people is threatening, deeply so. In my view, it would be harassment or intimidation.
Meantime, Rabbi David Wolpe has resigned from Harvard's Anti-Semitism Advisory Committee, citing Gay's testimony as one of the reasons why. Kirk Carapeza, GBH News, 89.7.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, as we do every Tuesday and every Friday. And we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Tuesday here at the Boston Public Library, we're going to be joined by the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Andrea Campbell, from 11 to 12, taking our questions and yours. And right after that, the Mayor of the City of Boston, Michelle Wu. She's also here from noon to 1, I should say, taking our questions and yours. In a little while, we're going to be talking with Penn, who's here ahead of magic shows at the Box Center Schubert Theater. Really big show, Jim. Really big show.
And a little later in the show, live music from what appeared to be a couple of dozen performers from the fabulous Rebels. Have you been to the Rebels, by the way?
Yes.
It is spectacular.
Yeah, I'm going to try to
great.
go again this year. They're wonderful.
In any case, we're joined now at the desk by GBH's Callie Crossley. Callie's the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, which you can catch Sunday nights on 89.7 at 6. You can also hear Callie commentaries Mondays on GBH's Morning Edition. Also co-host for GBH's brand new Culture Show, which airs daily at 2 right here at 89.7. Callie, good to see you.
Hi.
Hello.
Good.
Hello, Callie Crossley. So let's start with the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell. I am quite thrilled that she is suing this neo-Nazi group who are allegedly, well, I don't even know if it's allegedly anymore, but harassed, intimidated people at shelters for migrants and homeless people, and also people doing drag shows. So what do you think?
Well, she certainly has a lot of facts about their activity. They're quite detailed in bringing the charges as she has. And, the time span seems relatively short, but God, they've been busy. Since 2020, she has pointed out there's an escalating campaign. What's interesting is that they only, as far as they know and have identified in this suit, 30 active members, but look at the havoc that these 30 active members are doing. It's really quite horrific. So they've shut down 4 drag queen story events, and one that they described in Taunton, it sounded scary. They scared the children, they scared the parents, they had to escort the storyteller out. And then they've been targeting the shelters where folks are coming in, seeking asylum, but very specific shelters, those that are housing at the moment folks from Africa, folks from people of color. I guess they don't have anything to say about the white folks who are immigrants. So anyway, that's what the situation is, and she's put the hammer down, and we'll see what happens. They apparently are motivated by a fear of being replaced. So their flyers say, New Englanders, you are being replaced, organize, and resist, meaning in their minds, white people are being replaced by they call the people in the shelters invaders. Let me
Yeah.
be clear, the people of color in the shelters invaders. And I guess they put the same kind of language around the LGBTQ folks who are primarily, their focus has been on as I said, the drag queen story.
And that
Can I just say-
replacement thing was a nonstop
Charlottesville,
theme of
Jews shall
Yes,
not replace us.
Yeah, and when Tucker Carlson talked
Yeah,
about
that's
that
exactly
constantly when he
right.
was on Fox News. He's
You know-
less reachable
Right.
now, but he's still out there.
One more thing about this is these cowards, and they are cowards, wear masks. And as we've discussed before, if they're so proud of their racism, then they should take their mask down and let the world know who is proud of being white supremacists and that sort of thing. Secondly, you know what's really interesting? We have Andrea Campbell here on Tuesday, and we'll obviously ask her. What's really interesting in the Globe coverage of this, which I assume is perfectly accurate, one of the places NSC 131 also went was Maura Healey's house in Arlington.
That's right.
And it's not mentioned here, which leads me to believe that Andrea Campbell is doing what she has to do, which is, as noxious as these people are, if they're demonstrating and there are no threats, there's no harassment, as offensive as it may be, you're entitled to
Right.
that under the First Amendment. And I'm curious, I'm assuming that it's not in the story because she's not including that.
Right.
And as painful as I'm sure it was for the neighbors and the governor and her partner herself, it's probably the right thing if it didn't reach the level it reached at these other settings. So good for Campbell.
And remember,
Yeah.
when we asked the governor about that, because she has
Right.
talked about not wanting to let people know when she's out of town.
Right.
And we asked her if it had something to do with this. She didn't really give us an answer. She didn't even want to tell us whether she was home when they came up to her home. But
I don't blame her.
I think it'd be pretty scary to see those guys out your window.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And, the neighbors too have got to be fearful as well because you just don't really know. Of
course you don't. Exactly right.
If people are going to just lose their minds at any moment. I mean, so anyway.
So the Reggie Lewis Center, people.
This is fascinating.
I don't know if it's in the South End or if it's in Roxbury. I don't know where exactly it is, but it's on right near the police station, police headquarters. A beautiful spot, actually. It's got a great track in there. But I was distressed to see that kids that are in Boston that are right near the Reggie Lewis can't be practicing. I think it's past 3:30 in the afternoon using the track for track practice because suburban kids are coming in. And then I read that a lot of suburban kids don't have any place to run their indoor track either, which kind of surprised me. But this is kind of depressing.
We should credit the Dorchester Reporter.
Yeah,
Dorchester
right.
Reporter, which is a great paper, by the way. Dorchester
it
Reporter.
is.
Yep.
And they're always on top of situations like this. I mean, first of all, I was completely surprised. Let's clear up. It is definitely in Roxbury. It's literally sitting right next to Roxbury Community College. So there's no question about that. And it's a kind of a weird thing because the money came from the city to do it, but as one of these other coaches who is not in the city points out, it's a state facility. So that's where, I don't know if it's confusion, I don't know if that's the right word, but lack of clarity about the times that the folks who live and go to school in Boston get to practice versus the ones who come from other places. And right now, it looks like the kids who are in BPS are getting the short change from the wealthier schools in the suburbs. That's just what it looks like. I take the point of the coach that says there are no spaces really for anybody. But what really got me with this story was the kids from the schools in Boston are running inside their current buildings to get practice, meaning not when the schools are cleared out. So there's nobody in the hallways, there's nobody, crossing the hall to go do whatever. They're running up and down steps with people in the building because they don't have any place else to do it.
Careening down the hallways.
Right. So aside from, and oh, by the way, this is a danger to their bodies. These are, I don't know if I call them elite athletes, but they're pretty good.
Athletes.
They're athletes, and they can do damage to their bodies in this way. Not to mention, if they're careening at the speed they want to be at to win, and you're in the hallway, I mean, I don't have that much presence of mind to know how to move. Get out of the way, first of all. So that's a problem. And then the third thing is to be in Boston, to have the facility, you're looking at it, and you can't use it. It just seems crazy. So anyway, Boston City Councilors passed one unanimous support for a resolution condemning this practice, but they got to sit down and figure out what's going to happen, what are the timings, how is it going to work, and Some people are declaring this, as Counselor Tanya Fernandez Anderson did of Roxbury. This is systemic racism. She says money talks. In Roxbury, this is very real. So they got to figure this out, because this is not fair all around.
It's not.
And harmful. Yeah, to many people.
No, I mean, you're on waxed floors. You're running down waxed floors, practicing for your 100-yard sprint or dash, whatever they call it.
And what if the janitor is just mopped? I mean, I just can't even imagine the possible.
I can't either. The visual is just unbelievable, and it's so screwing these kids.
Yes.
I mean, it's just.
Well, that was the other thing that somebody mentioned, is that by the time they actually get to a real meet with the facility as it's supposed to, they don't know how to compete. They're at a disadvantage because they've never had a chance to have that facility.
And you know what's weird?
Practice.
We're always having these stories in the paper about spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on these fancy new schools in richer suburbs. I mean, you should see the Brookline High School edition. It looks like something from outer space. It's unbelievable.
Right.
Why don't they build an indoor track?
Because they obviously have access to this
Well,
one.
at least in Brookline, you're close. But I mean, if you live someplace further away, you're going to put everybody in a bus and ride them into
that's
Boston.
what's happening now.
Yeah, it's
and the way they described it, I think, you really get a visual, is they have, the minute 3:30 hits, all these buses are sitting out there.
That's right, they're out.
From suburbia. I mean, it's just unfair all
How
the
do you
way
feel if
around.
you're that kid? I mean, it's just, it's horrible.
horrible.
I can feel the anxiety. I want to do my training, and I'm looking at my watch or looking at the clock, saying I'm going to be swept out of here in my own community.
It's the same thing at White Stadium in Franklin Park, which now this women's soccer team is going to spruce up and fix. I mean, that says something. A lot of these schools say something to these kids, like the bathrooms aren't clean, they don't work, the stadium isn't very nice. I mean, it sends a message, which is a very debilitating, discouraging message. We don't, we
don't care about you. Well,
exactly.
I mean, didn't you just finish having the conversation with Philip Eng about, the state of the escalators? What does it say? You know what I mean?
Mention an elevator.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'd ever want to get on an elevator in the T. I'd be a little nervous and think about the people that are trying to, with wheelchairs or mothers with babies and carriages.
Well,
and
there's
stuff.
another problem historically, at least in Central Square, and I haven't been on the elevator there in years. There's a urine issue.
There's a urine issue,
really,
and there's just do you want to
for-
risk your life getting on this elevator?
Yeah.
Can we do an uplifting tale, a bad beginning? We'll jump out of order, 'cause
All
it's
right.
a pretty good one. There's a Canadian news outlet,
love this.
Global News traffic reporter, Leslie Horton.
Yes.
And she's on air, and I guess she's checking her email or some such thing. And she says she usually doesn't respond to these things, but in the I guess the 2020s, whatever, body shaming is one of the other things that people do in their spare time. She chose to respond to the email she received. Here's a little bit from Leslie Horton's response.
Just going to respond to an email that I just got saying, congratulations on your pregnancy. If you're going to wear old bus driver pants, you have to expect emails like this. So thanks for that. No, I'm not pregnant. I actually lost my uterus to cancer last year. And this is what women of my age look like. So if it is offensive to you, that is unfortunate. Think about the emails that you sent.
How
I'm
great
so
is this
glad
woman?
that she responded. We don't know what the troller, response to the response was, but I just can't say it. I mean, we have to understand that also she's in a context of women who are in the public space are particularly targeted by online trollers. I mean, this happens all the time. And then in the profession that we're in, I don't need to tell either of you, you probably get a lot of hate mail. I get some hate mail.
One of us gets a lot of hate mail. The other doesn't get much at all.
Well, I'm just saying it's not very comfortable, and a lot of it is for me, is sexist and racist. And so in her instance, it was definitely sexist. I'm glad she responded on two levels, not just personally about, how horrible for you to attack me in this way, but to really talk about women and, who look normally. We're a normal person. This is how I look, and stop talking about my appearance. And women are always, I don't need to tell you, Marjorie, it's about the appearance 9 times out of 10.
Well, you know what drives me crazy, though? And I don't know. I would imagine that these are the news directors.
Yeah.
Many of them may be men who have these women on television in dresses that you think they had to that were
you're like
molded
this, please
over,
God, I don't want anything to
molded
happen.
over their body. Who was the reporter for Channel 5 after she left that actually wrote a piece about this?
Yes.
The emphasis on having these really tight, short dresses.
Wasn't Heather Unruh, was it?
Heather Unruh.
Okay.
Heather Unruh. And that was Channel 5, which is and you've done a lot of TV work.
Yeah.
I mean, there is this, you get the sense that this is what they want.
Yeah. So, but when these people, this is not the news directors. That's one
Those
issue.
are people
But
being
this is,
nasty. Yeah.
This is people on the outside just responding in this way. You're like, who gives you the right to come at me in this way? If you want to have a constructive criticism, and I want to hold up for people who, because we always ask for response, please write us, please this and that. Well, before there was all this online trolling of women, in my first job in television, I had a regular commenter. And it was not nasty. He just said to me something that was important for me to know. I kept it for many years. He said, you talk too fast. I said, can you just slow it down? And I said, and then he would continue to write, it's still too fast. And then finally, I must have got better because he said, okay, now, good. Which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a way to have constructive criticism for people if that seemed to me to be appropriate for what I was doing and how he was responding to it as a viewer. That's fine. This is entirely out of...
It's out of whack.
Yeah.
But I guess I didn't make the point well enough. I guess I was pointing out that because you so generally don't see women that look like regular women on television, when you see someone who does, people are like, oh my God, where is her really tight outfit on? You know what I mean?
And they feel that, again, that it's okay for them to comment on it. That's the thing that gets me. So I'm glad she responded. A lot of people responded to her response. We don't know what happened to the troller, but I don't care.
One other thing before we ask you what's happening on today's edition of the brand new Daily Culture Show, day 5 of the Daily thing. Hunter Biden, obviously the son of the president, was indicted, I think $1.5 million, $1.4 million in alleged tax evasion. And if it's true, it's obviously reprehensible, even though a lot of his misdeeds around things like this and applying for a gun permit were during a period when he was suffering from major addiction, which he theoretically is in recovery from. The reason this is as big a story, obviously it's a story because he's the son of the president, is because I assume we'll start hearing this afternoon or tomorrow that this in some way indicts the father.
Right.
I mean, it's sort of like the impeachment inquiry, which allegedly has enough votes to move forward. And the only thing that I've read, and I have to admit I haven't read it quite as carefully as I should, is that Hunter Biden made some sort of a payment to his father, which it turns out was repayment of a car loan.
Right.
So essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, based on what we know about the alleged misdeeds of the son, this is an attempt to visit the misdeeds of the son on the father. And maybe they'll make a connection someday. Maybe they'll make a connection to how much money Hunter was getting on the board of that Ukrainian energy company or that sort of thing. But that is where things stand right now, is it not?
Of course, that's exactly where it stands. And unfortunately, President Biden is going to have to, try to navigate through this because... and he's not tried to make an excuse for him. He said, that my son had some big issues, which we hope he's coping with. Some of the details of this and how he was handling himself at the time are pretty awful.
His addiction.
The money and how he was handling the money and why he didn't pay the taxes and all that. So he's not very likable. On top of the fact that this is illegal activity, and he happens to be the son of the president.
Drugs, escorts, and women.
Right. Yeah. And then asking, I guess, all his friends for money while he was spending it profusely and not doing this other stuff. So we all assume that was part of the addiction stuff. But, there's a whole lot of people, too, who really feel strongly that, former President Trump has been accused falsely, and that, asking his kids who worked for him in the business about which there has been established and documented fraud is wrong, too. So... it's an interesting time. I don't know how it would have been perceived if that weren't going on at the same time.
Yeah, well, obviously, but my sense of those people that you just described, you said they believe he's been accused, Trump, falsely. I think for those who believe he's been accused appropriately, they don't give a damn.
Right.
I mean, it's almost 91 indictments
Right.
are a badge of honor,
Yeah.
felonies.
That's right.
Being found liable for sexual abuse of E. Jean Carroll, not to mention a couple of dozen other women who have credibly accused him of sexual harassment or worse, is a non-issue.
Yeah.
And it
You
is
mentioned that he's already been found guilty, essentially, of
The
this
fraud,
with
yeah.
a $250
Right.
million
well, not criminally
possible-
guilty, liable. He's been found liable, yeah.
And it has to do with his taxes. It has
Yeah.
to do with the far greater malfeasance.
Well, that's the
tax-wise.
valuation issue of property
Yeah.
and
Right,
things
right.
to get loans from banks.
You're not
and
supposed to do that.
You're not supposed to. That is
No,
correct.
that is true.
According to the judge in the case, he has done that in violation of law. So, Callie Crossley, we've been listening faithfully. It was a weekly Friday afternoon show, the Week in Review, for all of November. As of Monday, it became daily. This is the Week in Review day. One, what do you think of week one? And two, what are you doing today?
Week one, we're at the end of it. I think I think this is a question you want to ask Jared because he had to carry that a lot this week.
Okay, we will. How about today?
Today is we got a lot of. As always, there's so much to choose from. When you really stop to think about, what's happened in the past week, we usually have an embarrassment of riches, and the question is, which ones do we think are best suited to sort of make a statement about all the things that are happening culturally in the world? So
when Jared answers like that,
Yes.
the conclusion I draw is Jared has no idea what he's talking about on the show. Should I draw the same conclusion with you?
No.
So
I think
give
you
us
should.
a
I know
tease.
exactly what's on
Tell
the
us
show.
Are you
what
gonna
damn thing you're talking about.
Taylor Swift is Time Magazine's Person of the Year.
Actually, we're not spending time on her because we spend a lot of
Very
time
sad.
on
What
Taylor
are you
Swift.
doing?
But of course, we're going to talk about Norman Lear's death.
yeah.
Because if
101.
people haven't paid some attention to his legacy, it's massive. There are very few people about whom you can say actually changed the whole face of an industry, and he's one. So you have to talk about that. But he was such a profoundly effective in many other areas of the entertainment industry. It's like mind-boggling how much stuff he did. And the fact that I think he died the way that a lot of people would like to die. He worked up until the end.
And it was compos mentis,
Yes,
too.
this is what I'm
that was
saying.
very encouraging.
Yeah, so, for sure, we're talking about that. And then we have a lot of other interesting...
Which you will not disclose at this particular
she
time.
wants to
Thank you.
tease us, Callie
got it.
does, and why not, right?
Callie,
so
the
you
show
can tune
is-
in at 2 o'clock and
That's right.
find out.
That's
Show's been
correct.
great, and the
Thank
weekend
you.
reviews are particularly fun. Congratulations, all of
How
you.
about
It's really
how about
exciting.
Under the Radar?
Under the Radar, we are jumping in on the 250th anniversary of the Tea Party, discussing the myths and some of the correct information about it with some great panelists, including one who is in the process of trying to identify the real descendants of people who are participating in that. And then the second half of the show is always a fun one where our food and wine gurus are around to talk about these new Advent calendars that go way beyond chocolate.
Oh, yeah. I heard about those,
the
Things
frozen
pop
food
out and stuff like
all this
that.
stuff, and great wines to consider and other gifts. It's a fun show.
Great. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Callie,
See you,
thank
Callie
you very
Crossley.
much.
Thank you so much.
Been speaking with Callie Crossley. She's host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, which you can catch Sunday nights right here on 89.7 at 6 o'clock. You can hear her Callie commentaries Monday on GBH's Morning Edition. And Callie, of course, is co-host of GBH's Culture Show, which airs daily at 2 o'clock. It's this afternoon, right after the news at 2 on 89.7 GBH. Thanks a lot, Callie. After a quick break, we're going to talk with Boston Globe columnist Associate Editor Adrian Walker, host of the Murder in Boston podcast, centered around the murder of Carol DeMady Stewart back in 1989 by her husband, although no one was looking closely at the husband for quite some time. Adrian Walker is next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marge Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. The Rebels will be performing for us in about, 45 minutes. Penn Gillette in between. Tuesday, we're back at the library, 11 to 12. The Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, will be here to answer your questions. Noon to 1, the Mayor will be here, Michelle Wu, to answer your questions. In October of 1989, Carol Stewart was murdered, and her husband, Charles, or Chuck, who was driving, was also shot. They were leaving a birthing class in the city. Chuck's frantic 911 call pinning the shootings on a black man sparked a manhunt through Mission Hill and reignited racial tensions that had long been simmering in the city. Carol died just hours after the shooting, her unborn child soon thereafter. Chuck died in January by suicide, jumping off the Tobin Bridge. The circumstances around their deaths captured the city and the nation's attention in different ways, depending on the community. For Mission Hill residents, racism trampled through their neighborhood as police descended en masse, searching for the non-existent black shooter. All the while, a secret was making its way through the Stewart family in Revere that Chuck, the husband, was the killer. Boston Globe has just released a trove of new reporting on the case in print and a podcast. The Globe spent 2 years reinvestigating the case, concluding that the historical narrative needed some amending in a number of ways. If you were listening the other day, a guest on our show, retired Judge Nancy Gertner, challenged one of those conclusions. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, we're joined at the library by Adrian Walker. Adrian is a Boston Globe Metro columnist, associate editor, part of the extensive reporting team behind this Globe project, also host of the podcast Murder in Boston. Adrian, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, Adrian, thank you very much for coming in. Let's just get a little bit in the mood here. We can hear from the podcast the 911 dispatch call that was made by Chuck Stewart on the night that he murdered his wife.
Is your wife breathing? Gurgling.
Chuck says a man with a gun forced him to drive here.
The people that shot you, were they in the area right there?
They took off. Oh, they left.
Okay.
Carol is bleeding out in the front seat beside him. They're racing against an unforgiving clock.
Oh, man.
Chuck, can you give me anything? Just look out the window. Can you see anything?
Oh, I'm blanking out.
You can't blank out on me. I need you, man.
So Adrian Walker, talk about, Boston, massive racial tensions before the murder and what it was like after the murder.
Well, this was a time of real upheaval. We were sort of coming out of the era of racial violence that had started with school busing in 1974. But it was also a time when crime was exploding. And there was a ton of racial tension in the city. I mean, it was still a time when black people didn't go to South Boston, didn't go to Charlestown. Hyde Park was iffy. There was a ton of racial tension. And you see it right there. I mean, you got the Longwood Medical area, which was mostly white, and right across Huntington Avenue, you got Mission Hill, which was black and brown.
Go
and
ahead, Margaret,
things
I'm sorry.
Were not helped by this murder. I mean,
no, they absolutely were not.
Talk about the reaction to of the cops and the city to this killing. There was another shooting that same night. You had a great section with Eileen McNamara, a great reporter from the Boston Globe.
Yes.
They got absolutely no attention whatsoever. Another man killed this very same night. But talk about the reaction.
The reaction was that the city exploded. Here's this idea that this pregnant white woman has been taken into Mission Hill and murdered by some black man who jumped in the car, and everybody went crazy. I mean, there were calls for the death penalty, and as for the police, they immediately tore through Mission Hill looking for this, as we now know, fictional suspect.
By the way, that black man reference comes from, here's some audio from the EMTs and officers questioning Charles Stewart as they transport him to the hospital.
See who did this? Who did this? Black man. One guy, two guys. What do you look like?
Haunting. The officer says, did you see who did this? Who did this? Stewart says, black man. Officer says, one guy, two guys. What did he look like? There was an interesting character in the middle of this. You mentioned what was happening in the schools in the 70s. One of the opponents of what was happening was a guy by the name of Ray Flynn.
Oh, yes.
Who, when the Stewart murder happened, was the mayor of the city. How did Ray Flynn respond to that? And he ran as a unifier, I should say, and a racial unifier, among other things. How did he respond to all this?
That's right. Ray Flynn had gotten elected mayor in 1983 initially as this racial healer, and suddenly this was the moment his administration had always feared. This was the great racial conflagration they were terrified by. And he responded by saying, we're going to put every single available detective on the case. And, he kind of co-signed everything that was going on. And I want to go back to the Eileen McNamara story you mentioned. There was a black man who was murdered a couple miles away in Dorchester named James Moody, whose murder got none of this attention,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing that really I think was so upsetting too is that the cops ran roughshod, I don't think it's unfair to say, through Mission Hill, stopping and frisking, sometimes taking teenage boys, black boys, to take their pants off in the middle of the street and bursting into the apartments of the wrong people to arrest. This was a real terror.
Oh, it was absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it went on for quite some time.
Right. It went on until January 4th, 1990, when the whole story unraveled when Chuck Stewart jumped off the Tobin Bridge.
One of the things that I learned, I was a reporter in Boston then too, but I certainly didn't realize then, or actually until this podcast and this Globe Stories, how many people knew. Matthew Stewart certainly knew right from the start because he was there at the scene of the crime.
Yes.
But many people knew on the day of Carol DeMady Stewart's funeral, when somebody read that tearjerker thing from the podium, "Good night, sweet wife."
From the husband,
allegedly from the husband who was recovering from his wounds, and people were in tears listening to his ode, this beautiful ode to his wife, and the fact that he kept, I think, constantly saying, "Take care of my wife, take care of my wife, take care of my wife," with the EMTs when he was being taken to the hospital. And I wondered if that was about concern for his wife or hoping she was already dead so she couldn't.
I don't think it was concern. I think he was a psychopath.
Okay.
And I think this is what psychopaths do.
But I want to return to what Marjorie started talking about. If I remember the numbers correctly, the reporting says 11 people knew that Chuck was the shooter, the killer, as of the date of Carol's funeral.
Yes.
As high as, I think your number was 33, knew by January 3rd, the day before Stewart jumps off the Tobin Bridge. And how many of those 33 did the right thing and told somebody who had authority to deal with this?
One or two. But I think that 33 number is absolutely astonishing.
It is astonishing.
And these are people, many of them, who had known for quite some time, and who did absolutely nothing with the information, even as Mission Hill was being, laid to siege.
Well, in terms of the timeline, if I remember correctly, a couple of people in that 33 knew of Chuck's intention to kill Carol. Even before
because he had tried to recruit somebody to help him.
But one of the things, the contrast is that this rampage through Mission Hill and bursting through apartment doors, but I did not get the sense that anybody was bursting through doors up in Revere or even interviewing members of Chuck's family to any great degree, or his friends, or even, you have a great clip from a woman that was in the birthing class next to Carol and Chuck the night of the murder, and she talked about how Carol DeMady Stewart is taking all these notes while Chuck is like a nervous wreck, and she thought it was because he was worried about fatherhood.
Right. He was worried about something else.
But did the cops talk to all these people?
No, and one of the great tragedies here is that the police decided immediately they knew what happened, right?
Yep.
Because he's in the ambulance, he says the black man in the tracksuit, and they just took it and ran with it.
Yeah, and they had two
They
cops
never asked any other questions.
that were suspicious of Chuck because it is usually the husband in these kind of
That's right.
situations. And
the Bobbies.
The initial detectives were Bobby Tinlin and Bobby Ahern. They interviewed him in the hospital and immediately saw him as a suspect. But they get pulled off the case, and there's hardly any skepticism in the police department after that.
What was that about? Because I remember Peter O'Malley, who had a reputation in the community, I think, in general for his policing. So why did they get taken off the case?
They got replaced by people who could get with the program, because Chuck Stewart was not supposed to be questioned. Not everybody. The police thought, well, he couldn't have done it. Look how seriously injured he is. But they were totally wrong.
We're talking, Adrian, where were you in 1989?
I was at the Globe. I had started at the Globe 5 months prior, and I was a young general assignment reporter.
Okay, so what did that young general assignment reporter think about what you were hearing about, reading about, writing about, whatever? What did you think in 1989?
I don't know what I thought initially, but after a while I got really skeptical, because first there are two suspects, right, who come and go. First Alan Swanson and then Willie Bennett. And the most suspicious thing to me is that neither of them ever get charged. We're hearing every day and reading every day, they did it, they did it, they did it, they did it. It's kind of like, where's the charge?
Well, the DA later brags that they didn't charge Willie Bennett to show that they weren't zeroing in on him, which is total BS. Why did you and your colleagues decide, after I'm doing the math in my head, after 30 plus years, no, I'm serious, to look into this yet
I don't
again?
like doing the math.
Well, I can do it for you. I'm pretty good at that. 34 years. Why'd you decide to reinvestigate this thing, Adrian Walker?
You know, part of what happened was that the Globe was doing a series of stories, which I wasn't involved in, on police corruption. And we had an editor who said, you know, there's this legacy of police corruption that, you know, the cases we're doing now, the Trial 4 stuff involving Sean Ellis, I think it goes all the way back to Stewart. You know, and it does, and that was kind of the catalyst.
Well, also, I assume it's part of this, too. In addition, you and Marjorie were talking about the racial atmosphere in the city in 1989, both before and after this murder. But in the lead to one of the stories, and by the way, I should say, while I've read the whole print version, I just started listening to the podcast last night. You have very good
You're going to
voice
love
for
the podcast.
No,
you guys are radio guys.
Is terrific.
Like
it's like a trip down memory lane for some of us who've been around a long time.
You guys write somewhere in, I think, one of the opening episodes, chapters of this, also looking into the influence on the city today. What is the influence of the Stewart situation on Boston in 2023, Adrian Walker?
You know, I think it damaged police-community relations in a way that it's never really recovered from. I really do. I think that sort of suspicion has never really gone away. And that's part of the legacy of Stewart.
You know, one of the things I mentioned in the opening the other day, Matthews, the brothers' lawyer, Judge Nancy Gardner, is a regular on our show, was here. She's actually an occasional columnist in the Globe, as you know. And while she wrote in a letter to the editor that's been submitted, the reporting was, quote, extraordinary, she says, when it comes to, and I'm using words, I think, from the story, evidence pointing to Matthew playing a much larger role in the shooting, she says the Globe got it wrong, mischaracterizing grand jury testimony. I'm surely not going to go through her whole litany. She can do that. You guys can. Just one example, she talks about a witness that cited in the story, who testified before the grand jury, who originally said to the grand jury, and you report this, that he saw somebody sitting in the back seat. Later in the grand jury minutes that I read, he said, well, I'm not sure if I saw somebody in the back seat, saw somebody standing there. A few months earlier, it turns out the police report had the same guy saying it was a black guy sitting in the back seat. So again, she says you got it wrong vis-a-vis her client. What's your reaction to what Judge Gertner had to say, Adrian?
My reaction to what Judge Gertner has to say is that she mischaracterizes a lot of what's in the story. But the first thing we need to say is that Nancy Gertner talked to us at least 5 times over 20 months in the course of reporting this story, and her point of view is fully represented in the written story and in the podcast. She says, I don't think Matthew could ever have done this. Matthew was an innocent. You know, the grand jury was dying to indict Matthew. If there had been anything there, they would have. All of that is in the story.
Well, talk about the role of Matthew Stewart, that she sees him as much more of an innocent. I remember even at the time, there was some physicians who thought that Charles Stewart could not have shot himself the way he did. And the supposition was that Matthew had shot him. I remember that you've done the reporting on this, and I haven't done it in 30 years, but that was the supposition at the time. So tell us your view from...
And those people believe to this day, you know, we talked to 3 of them, that Stewart didn't shoot himself, and there have always been questions, completely legitimate and valid questions, despite what Gertner says, about, you know, Matthew's role in this, and whether it was more extensive than we've been led to believe. And I don't think there was anything wrong. In fact, we firmly stand by raising those questions. And it's important to say that we don't draw any conclusions. I mean, one of the things I was a little miffed about Wednesday was that
because I was the host that
she
day.
sort of, you know, she implied that in some wink and nod way we said he pulled the trigger. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah, and she also compared you to a tabloid, at which I took offense. I worked for a tabloid for 30 years.
She offended everybody.
I thought we did a pretty good job. And Evan Richmond from the Boston Herald, by the way, got the photograph, and you talked to him in the podcast as well, who happened to be there that night. That was a very controversial photograph because it showed them Carol
One of the most powerful photographs. You know, I don't know if she offended everybody. You know, this is not my business, so I probably shouldn't say this, but I will say it. This is I moved here in the mid-'80s, so I'd just been here when all this happened. This is one of the most, in my opinion, and I think yours, based on what you said a minute ago, Adrian Walker, one of the most important moments and the lingering effect in Boston in the last several decades. What I hope can happen, and I know this is not the normal give and take between, but these are 2 wildly respected. Nancy Gertner's a respected name in this community. Obviously, the Globe is, and you and your reporters are. Is there an effort to, this is where it's not my business, but I'll ask anyway, is there an effort to reconcile the disagreements? She says there's one set of facts. You contend that she's wrong. Is there an effort to try to get to the bottom line here?
I mean, she's written a letter to the editor. I'm pretty sure it's going to run, and, we'll all go from there.
Well, talk about this just as kind of taking over the media. You've got the piece in the Globe every day. You got your podcast, HBO at second. I was disappointed I had to wait for the second episode. It's tomorrow night, I think it's going to be. So there's an HBO thing going on. This is a multimedia production here.
Oh, yeah, it's a big production. The second episode of the 3-part HBO series comes on Monday, but also the next 3 episodes of the podcast come out next Monday, and the last 3 episodes the Monday after that.
What kind of reaction, can I ask what kind of reaction you get? I'm particularly interested, I don't know if you know this, what kind of reaction do you get from people who didn't live through it?
Oh my God.
Either new kids in town, new people in town, or people who are not 34 years old or older.
This is one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because, 3/4 of the people who live in Boston now did not live through this, unlike all of us. And the reaction is just astonishing to me. People are absolutely loving it. They're eating it up. They're asking me if I can slip them episodes of the podcast before they come out. I'm hearing from people saying I spent all day Sunday reading the entire series. So the reaction is just
I spent all day
amazing.
Sunday reading
you can read it on your computer.
Actually, yeah.
There's 2 things I want to touch on, too. Tell us, I think the guy's name was Don Juan?
Don Juan Moses,
Yeah,
yes.
tell us about him.
Don Juan was a kid in Mission Hill. He was an 11-year-old in Mission Hill, and, the police came through the door. They took his cousin into custody. They never charged him with anything. But, he's one of the many people you talk to who's just sort of been carrying this trauma around for 34 years.
Not to mention the tragedy in his own family from losing so many family members. He's had a tough time.
Yes, he has. But, he has really come out the other side.
Yeah. And the other thing, what does he do? He does a hospice care up in Maine.
He does hospice care in Maine, yes.
Yeah, he was a great interview.
Yes,
And the other thing I wanted to mention, I didn't know, maybe I should have, that the insurance check from Carol DeMady's death, $82,000, he wanted it delivered to him while he was still in the hospital.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's very weird. And the other thing I learned is that the young woman from Caicos Firs, whose dad used to be a pressman at the Globe, remember this?
Which is where Charles Stewart worked.
Charles worked at Caicos Firs, was in contact with him. I did not know that while he was in the hospital.
Yes, she was. Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, while we were talking to Adrian Walker, who is a central part of the team and the lead of the podcast, we were told we're joined by 2 other people who were part of this effort. Kristen Nelson, who's behind me, head of audio at the Globe, produced the podcast. Thank you for joining us. And another one of the reporters, Elizabeth Coe, is part of the event. Where are you, Elizabeth?
She was on the front row.
Hello, Elizabeth. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your work. Adrian, it's good to see you.
I came with the curing section.
You what?
I came with the curing section.
I haven't heard them applaud yet, so I'm not sure they're fulfilled. When you're prompted, it really doesn't work very well. But thank you.
We've only got like 30 seconds left. But
Yes.
really quickly, the people, these 33 people you talked about, how many of them would talk to you for the production of this series that knew about it and didn't
You
come
will be
forward?
shocked to hear that it is a tiny number.
It is a tiny number.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
So
congratulations.
people who weren't talking 34 years ago still aren't talking.
Okay. Adrian Walker, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
Very
Good to
much.
see
We very
you.
much appreciate it. We've been
Congratulations.
speaking with Boston Globe columnist and associate editor Adrian Walker, host of the podcast Murder in Boston, available wherever you get your podcasts, and the Globe special reporting project Nightmare in Mission Hill, the untold story of the Charles and Carol Stewart shooting, Carol DeMady Stewart shooting, available at bostonglobe.com. Stewart, bostonglobe.com/Stewart. And it's, by the way, it's Stuart. Adrian, thank you very much. After a quick break, you know him as one of the wildly popular magic duo from Penn and Teller. Their shows in Las Vegas, 10 seasons of their show, Fool Us, Celebrity Apprentice, and more. Penn Jillette, is next. Ahead of shows at the Box Center this weekend, you're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. We're joined by magician, entertainer, half of the wildly popular Penn and Teller, as a former contestant on NBC's Celebrity Apprentice with Donald Trump. Well, it is what it is.
I know it is.
Okay, fine. So we're going to get to it. And more recently, as
drag that
co-host of 10 seasons of Penn and Teller, Fool
More
Us
than
on
10
the CW, whatever it is.
Okay,
Can I get through this, please?
Okay, do your best.
Saturday, tonight,
if you did more than just
Saturday
read
and
Wikipedia,
Sunday,
okay.
They're at the Box Center Schubert Theater. For more information on tickets, go to boxcenter.org. Which one are you again?
I'm the little one.
You're
You
the
should
little
see
one,
the
right?
big one.
Penn
He
Gillette,
would
it's a
terrify
pleasure
you.
to have you, Penn.
Jesus.
Thanks so much for being here.
He's the size of a truck. Gigantic.
We've spoken to him in the past.
He's like King Kong.
Oh, my God. Well, nice to
Okay.
have you, Penn.
I'm
Good
the
to
little
see you.
quiet one.
You're the little
Exactly.
quiet one. That's absolutely correct. I think we can tell that right away from just these few seconds you've been here. So what's going on at the Box Center?
I don't know.
You don't know. You're just going to show
I
up.
haven't even been there. I have sound check at 5:30. That's all I do. 4:30? Sometime like that I have sound check.
Well, I didn't know until in preparation for your coming here today that you grew up in Greenfield.
Greenfield,
and you
Massachusetts.
spent your childhood wanting to be Jewish, gay, and a star in New York City. What
yeah,
was that
that's
all about?
I didn't want to be a star in New York City, just
Yeah.
Jewish and gay.
Was that
I just wanted to be Lou Reed.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
lived next to Amherst. Was that what this was
Well,
about?
Amherst was a whole different world.
Yeah.
I mean, never mind Boston. Amherst was 20 minutes away, and you just couldn't get there. It was just a dead little factory town. I was just back there, in Greenfield. And
By the way, it's like walking the wild side. It is like Lou Reed in Greenfield, isn't
Precisely.
it? Exactly. It's a wild kind of place. By the way,
Hollywood lawn,
for
walking down
those
the
who
street.
don't know, you can't go any further in Massachusetts. Is that not right? And
you wouldn't know. There could be dragons there for all you know. Yeah, it's a nutty place with just nothing going on.
now I know you want to talk about what you're doing here. Can I talk about?
I don't.
Well, okay, well, I want to
How
talk
do you
about
know
something
what
else
I
for a
want?
second.
How do you know my desires?
I'm embarrassed to say
Me
that I
too.
did not remember until we were preparing for you coming, even though I knew at the time. You were involved in one of the great films, I think, of all time, around the dirtiest joke and
Well,
the
the
history of.
Aristocrats. Involved with.
You were. I know.
my movie.
Jesus, this guy is a pain in my whatever. Can you tell people? You can still see it. Tell people what the Aristocrats was.
The Aristocrats was, I was talking to Paul Provenza, who's a great comic, and I've been studying jazz very seriously.
You're a big bassist, right?
I play upright bass, but I
Wow.
started very late. I started at 45 years old.
Yeah.
And I had I was a fan of a lot of kinds of music, but I didn't really understand jazz, and I wanted to learn it. And I was studying a lot of improvisation. And I was talking to Provenza about comparing Miles Davis to Gilbert Gottfried. And exactly that they were doing the same form. And we talked for about 5 hours in a diner about Miles Davis and Gilbert Gottfried, what platforms they were using, what paths they were calling on, and what real improvisation meant. And I said, it's odd because you get to hear Coltrane and Mingus and Miles play over the same changes, but you never get to hear comedians tell the same joke. And Provenza said, let's do that. Let's talk about jazz improvisation. And we wanted everybody to tell the same joke. And we were trying to decide what joke it should be. And then Provenza said, how about the Aristocrats, which is a famously among comics, a non-joke joke. I mean, Johnny Carson's favorite joke, George Burns' favorite joke. And when they wanted to shock someone backstage, they would just do this improvisation on the most repulsive things you could do as an act auditioning for
So why don't you do it right now?
I don't think you want me to.
I don't think I want you to do it right now.
I mean, really, I'm not. You should look on Wikipedia and see how much I bluff.
Well, it is fat. We're obviously talking to Penn Gillette of Penn and Teller. They'll be at the Box Center tonight, tomorrow, and the following day, Marjorie.
Well, you have an incredible. I mean, we were just talking about something that happened in Boston 30 plus years ago. This terrible murder story. You've been doing comedy for years and years and years. I read something where you like guys like Dean Martin, Liza Minnelli, Sinatra out in Vegas way back when. That must have been just.
I was not part of the Rat Pack.
You were not part of the Rat Pack, but I
was
mean, that's pretty. That's a long time to last in what you do.
Yeah, we are the longest running headliners in Las Vegas history. So suck on that, Sinatra.
Thank you very much for that. What do you really think about raise your right hand.
Okay.
And tell us what you really think about Las Vegas. Not your act and not the hotel.
Okay.
Tell us what you really think about Las Vegas.
I think it was best said by Johnny Rotten about Berlin when he said a cheap holiday in other people's misery.
Oh, my God. You're an honest man there, Penn Jillette.
But you also talk about how comedy's changed. And every time I see like Dean Martin like on TV, the Rat Pack kind of thing, everybody's making jokes about being drunk and they can't stand up and they're driving home and they're drunk. We don't do that anymore. And you also talked about
being stoned.
Yeah, now it's about being stoned, right. But how different comedy is. It's much more diverse now.
Magic.
And women, magic and comedy both.
Magic is about 25 years behind comedy. Magic is about 25 years behind everything. To give you an idea, the Magic Circle in England, which is the biggest magic organization in the world, which we are not allowed in, by the way, and I'm proud to say that.
Why
did
not?
not allow women on the property until the 90s.
Wow.
Let that sink in. So what you have is, I was very good friends with Phyllis Diller and Joan Rivers.
Really?
And they were real pioneers. And that was a big deal. You would mention, they're women and they do comedy. Now that's not mentioned because the top people in comedy are women. So there's not even a discussion of that anymore. And in Magic, it's still, on Fool Us, we've worked very hard to push the producers to get people who don't look like us doing magic. And now I don't think we get much credit for it, but I think the internet gets a lot of credit. The magic secrets are out there, and now we have a lot of women on the show, a lot of
Fool Us, you
non-binary.
have a ton, right? That's part of your hallmark, is it not?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's something to be admired. Now, it's pretty clear based on your reaction, you really want to talk about your time with Donald Trump. So let's do that. This is season 12.
No matter
Gillette.
how bad you think Donald Trump is,
yes,
he's worse.
Beautiful. That's why we wanted you here. This is season 12. That's not nearly enough applause, my friends. So season 12 of The Apprentice with emotional words on the charity Opportunity Village he was working with during the show. Trump and then Penn.
So, Penn, you were just crying. You do have a heart, don't you?
Yeah, they made this scarf for me at Opportunity Village. They made it for me for good luck. I'm sorry, class is my tie. But...
It's all right. That's good.
And they made them for Elvis, too.
You've done an amazing job with them. You really have. You've done an amazing job.
They made all
What
the
would you like to
stars for
say? Go
Elvis.
ahead.
Don't forget that.
So what do you want to apologize for? Go ahead.
Donald Trump Jr. once said to me that I seemed to be the person who liked his father the most.
Yeah.
And I said that I had an incredible tolerance for eccentricity. I'm a person who'll stop and talk to obviously crazy people. And the people I look up to the most are people like Tiny Tim and Sun Ra, who were neurodiverse, certainly.
Lenny Bruce, you mentioned.
Lenny Bruce, too, but he's not really in the category of this.
Yeah.
People that are really off the bell curve. And I thought that Donald Trump, kept in this box, was really an interesting person because he didn't have any filters. Now, Bob Dylan got rid of filters with willpower, talent, and intelligence. Tiny Tim got rid of filters, I think, with just being neurodiverse. Some people do it with drugs. Jimi Hendrix, I think, was helped by drugs. But Donald Trump did it by being a sociopath, a psychopath. And I found that really fascinating, but it never crossed my mind he'd be in a position of power. And I will say very proudly, when he first announced his presidency, I came out very strongly with my friend Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC.
Boston boy.
Yeah. Dorchester, and said he should not be president. And the New York Times, the failing New York Times.
That's what Trump calls it for those.
I don't think it's failed. They reported that right during his campaign, they published the hate list of Donald Trump based on his tweets and how much venom. And I was number 7 on the list of most hated. But I haven't gotten to the punchline.
Oh, go ahead.
Number 8 was Hillary Clinton.
Oh, my God.
Wow, what a badge of honor,
Thank
my
you.
friend.
And when we played New York, we were on Broadway. Donald Trump had sent out all these tweets that said, he'd never seen our show, but that's not important. Said we were terrible and all this. And we used it as pull quotes and put it on our posters. So it was up in Times Square that Donald Trump hated us.
Well, I thought you said too.
And we got along very well within that
Celebrity
area,
Apprentice, yeah.
Celebrity Apprentice. And I really didn't think there was any harm in treating someone who did not deserve respect with respect for a joke as a fantasy. And now I realize if I had my time back, I would have never called him Mr. Trump, and I would have never pretended he was a successful businessman. That seemed harmless at the time, and I don't want to self-aggrandize by saying I'm at fault, but I sure would have done it different now.
Apology accepted, by the way. Penn Jillette, we want you. We're talking to Penn Jillette, obviously from Penn and Teller. They're at the Box Center tonight, tomorrow night, and do I have the dates right? Yes, and Friday night.
Yeah, you don't need a date for tonight, tomorrow
I'm
night.
incredible. Am I not? Did I know
And then
all
we
this?
go on a USO tour right
You
after
do?
that.
Oh, do you really?
I leave from here in Boston over to parts unknown. I'll be the first one to know the Hamas tunnels. We're Poland. I don't think they go into Poland, but we'll be going to. Am I allowed to say where we're going, Glenn? I'm not allowed to say where we're going.
Okay.
We're going to places I'm not allowed to say.
Going far
are you
away.
the boss? Are they the boss of you, or what's the
They are
deal?
the boss of
Yeah.
me.
They're the boss
You
of
want
you.
me to be the boss of myself? Is that how have you not been here for the
Now,
past?
Penn Jillette,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Penn Jillette, when you walked on the set, we had a brief exchange.
Uh-oh.
And our lead producer, Jamie,
I
said...
didn't mean to grab you when we hugged.
Well, by the way, it's fine. It was good for you because it was fairly,
I did, but I just didn't.
fairly good for
hope
me.
I didn't violate
Whatever. Let's
boundaries.
move past that.
Okay.
Now, Jamie, our lead producer, said, "Oh, he's going to do a little magic trick." And I said, "Oh, you're going to do a magic trick?" And I said, "No, I don't want to do a magic trick. It's not going to play here." But can I tell you something?
Yeah.
It's too late. Is that
Okay.
true? Yes or no?
Oh, one of the most famous.
Okay,
well,
fine.
name the other ones.
So do the other guy, the little guy who doesn't talk. What's his name?
Yeah, first of all, the little guy's your size.
Oh, yes. Okay, so do something.
Oh,
Do something. Come on.
I thought you were saying people weren't the boss of me. Do you have back pockets?
Yes, I do.
You have back. Can you get to them?
Yes, I can.
You got anything in them?
No.
Okay, because you're a smart ass, so I can
am
do
a
this
smart
for you.
guy.
He is a
Thank
smart
you.
ass.
No, I
Thank
said
you.
did not say smart guy.
I thought you did.
I said smart ass.
I thought I heard that pretty incorrectly.
I said
Thank
Oh,
smart
here we go,
ass.
Jim.
I got it, and I want you to see that these cards are mixed up here.
It's a
as you
real
can
thing,
see.
a real deck,
Now,
yep.
can you handle a deck of cards?
I mean, I can hold. What do you mean, can I handle it?
I mean, have you ever had cards in your hand?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good. What I want you to do is, could you just? I just want to see you do this. Now, follow the directions carefully, okay?
following 'em.
Because you can screw up this whole thing.
Okay, fine.
And it will be your fault if the
Okay,
trick doesn't
fine,
work. You
yeah.
understand this?
Yeah.
Can you cut the card and complete the cut? I
What
want
do
to
you
see.
mean, like this and do that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you do
wasn't
that?
Great. Well, I just did do
Well,
it.
do that again.
I'm not
I
going to
want
do it that many times.
Okay. Now, can you do that behind your back?
Should I do it now?
Yeah, cut them.
I just did it.
Okay, now you cut them. Take the top card, put it in
card.
your left pocket.
Left pocket.
Left back pocket.
Wrong. That's the wrong pocket. Hold
Okay.
on. Okay, left.
And then
Yep.
take the next card, put it in your right pocket.
Put it in my right pocket.
And have the face facing your ass. Have
Well,
you done
that's-
that?
I got to turn it around. I know what my ass
Okay,
is.
it's all right.
Thank you.
Give me the card.
Even though a lot of people
We-
think I don't know my ass from my elbow, but that's a whole other topic.
No, you're fine.
Okay,
no,
I'm doing- Go ahead.
Okay, now you just let's recap. What we did here. Okay.
Yes.
You took the cards. We mixed them up. You saw them
Yes,
mixed up.
we
You
did.
Mixed them. You shuffled them incompetently. You did all that
I
stuff.
did. Thank
then
you.
you reached behind your back.
I
cut
did.
The card, took one card, put in your left pocket.
Left.
And then you cut them again. Put the next card in the right pocket.
did.
You put them toward your cheeks.
Towards
Okay.
my cheeks.
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. So you have those cards. Now you said before.
What did I say?
You're a smart ass.
You
You
said
made that
that, but I
very
said
clear.
smart
Well,
ass.
sure.
Okay.
Is there anybody doubt? Can I see hands that doubt he's a smart ass? There's a few people
Thank
that
you.
doubt that. Okay. So I'm going to do the easy part. You're going to do the hard part.
Okay, good.
Okay. I'm going to tell you that you got in your pockets 2 kings. You reached in the middle of the deck. You reached in the middle of the deck
I
here,
did.
and you pulled out 2 kings out of here, right?
I don't
you pulled
know.
out 2 kings. You don't know what you picked up because you shuffled them, you cut them, but you pulled out 2 kings. You pulled out the king of diamonds and the king of hearts. What are the chances of that? Cut to one king, then cut to another king. Pulled out 2 red kings. The only 2 red kings in the deck. The only 2 red kings in the deck, and you pulled them out of there.
That's what you say.
Behind your back. That's what I say.
Yeah.
It's the king of diamonds and the king of hearts. Now you,
Me.
Mr. Smartass.
Yes, thank you.
You tell me, with them against your cheeks.
They're against my cheeks.
I like doing this.
I'm sure you do.
You tell me.
Ay.
It's the king of diamonds in the left pocket.
Can I
King
look
of
at
hearts.
it?
No, not yet.
Oh.
Just going to do it psychically.
Okay.
King of diamonds, right, left pocket. King of hearts, right, or king of diamonds over there. King of hearts there.
How the hell do I know?
Because you're a smart ass.
Okay.
King of diamonds, king of hearts, king of diamonds, king of hearts. Which way is it?
I don't know.
Tell me.
I think the king of diamonds is on my right cheek. The king of hearts is on my left cheek.
You want to change your mind?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what do you want to say?
I want the king of hearts to be on my right cheek, the king of diamonds to be on my left cheek.
Okay, pull them out.
Really? Yeah. Aren't you nervous about this?
No.
You're not?
No. Because I know you're a smartass.
Oh, my God.
There's the king of diamonds.
King of diamonds. Wait a second.
There's the...
And a king of damn hearts.
King of damn hearts, yeah.
Now, can I act like every other...
A miracle!
Every other smart ass you've ever encountered. How'd you do that?
Those are my cards. They have my DNA on them. You keep them. Sell them on eBay.
By the way, they really are.
By the way, look
this
through.
This is like a regular deck of cards.
You shuffle them. You mixed them up. You did that. You pull out two red kings.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Incredible. It's a goddamn miracle.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. You're a miracle.
I don't know why you people aren't bowing. Did you see what happened?
What do you think of that, everybody? Thank you.
So
and there should have been more applause than that when I said I hated Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There should have been much more applause.
That's a little better. Not enough.
This is a stupid card trick. This is the end of our country. Balance those two things together.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, they're coming at us. What are they coming at us for? There are people coming at us. What'd I do wrong? Trump forever. MAGA. What'd I do wrong?
Okay.
Are you attacking me? It's okay.
Now, do you want to answer Marjorie's first question?
Well,
what the hell are you doing the next?
What the hell?
A lot of people have asked me to ask you, so I'm going to ask you about the red fingernails.
Oh, it's just for my mom.
Just for your mom.
When I was 16, I started juggling, and my mom said, you should keep your hands and nails really nice, people looking at your hands. And to mock her, I took her nail polish and put it on, and then I continued to mock her, and then it turned into a tribute.
Okay.
And it's just a way. I can't say it's a way to remember my mom, because I remember her every second. I'm quite the mama's boy, but I like it.
Well,
wait a second. I thought your daughter Moxie says it's for her.
Yeah, she does. She does say that.
So it's like a twofer kind of
Yeah,
thing,
it is. My mother would approve of that.
So before you go, do you want to say anything about the show you're doing with Teller?
No.
You don't even care.
I don't care at all.
You don't care at all.
Are we sold out, Glenn?
Are we sold out, Glenn? We almost sold out. Almost.
Okay,
What's
so
the
I
website?
do want to say,
Okay, what do you want to
almost,
say?
the word almost, go to see our show with the Schubert. It's the best goddamn show you'll ever see.
That's right.
BOCHcenter.org. Penn Gillette, you're pretty great, by the way. That was a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We're
These
really
people aren't going to hurt me?
What?
These people aren't going to hurt me.
I don't know. It depends. What do you think of the trick? Anybody?
Very
Apparently
impressive.
pretty good. Thank
and
you.
And you know what? We really love that you called him a smart ass. That made my day. Thank you very much.
So, state the obvious.
Thank you. Get him out of here, this guy.
Okay, Penn Gillette, thank you very much. Tickets, as Jim just said, at the boxcenter.org. Boxcenter.org. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Coming up, this is going to be a switch. It's live music Friday here at the Boston Public Library. For more than 50 years, the organization Rebels has been staging original plays, musicals celebrating the Yuletide season. We're going to hear them perform in just a second and talk with Artistic Director Patty Swanson and others. After a quick break, you're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live from the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We're next back at the library on Tuesday from 11 to 12 on Tuesday. Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General, will be here to take your questions and calls. From noon to 1, the Mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will join us here at the library. It's time for Live Music Friday on Boston Public Radio. Every year around this time, the Boston-based Rebels host their annual show titled fittingly Midwinter Rebels. It's been a tradition for more than 50 years. The organization has grown to reach over 70,000 people nationwide, telling stories from Yuletide traditions the world over. Joining us now at the desk is Patty Swanson, Artistic Director. This will be his final Midwinter Rebels show after 34 years. Replacing him, at least on an interim basis so far, is the woman standing beside him, Deborah Wise, and song leader David Coffin is also here. Hello, David, to you. We'll talk to him in a couple of seconds as well. Midwinter Rebels, the Feast of Fools, runs December 15th through the 28th with a virtual option available as well. For information and to get tickets, go to revels.org. Marjorie and I have both been there in the past. One of the spectacular holiday things of all time. Patty and Deborah, it's great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for joining us. So Jim gave a little of the background here, but Patty, why don't you elaborate? I mean, it is this one of these stories about you guys says the 5 decades
Right.
of tradition. So tell us.
Well, founded by Jack Langstaff, who was a concert baritone, and decided to put everything that he liked on stage. And he did it in the 50s, and he started this thing called Revels, and he put Morris dancers and traditional music and kids and a chorus, and it was great. And it was at the town hall, and he borrowed $2,000. That's right, New York City. He borrowed $2,000, and he lost his shirt because people, didn't know what the hell this was, and it was. But it was. He planted a seed, and then a little later on, Hallmark Cards actually picked it up as a holiday special on TV. Dustin Hoffman was the dragon. He just done his first film, and it hadn't come out yet, so he was still doing Hallmark. And then a little later on, his daughter Carol Langstaff, who was folk singing up here in Boston at Club Passim, what is now Club Passim.
Club 47.
Club 47, exactly. Said, well, there's this wonderful building up here called Sanders Theatre, and they're going to give it us for free. Why don't we do the Revels in it? So off they went. That was 1971, I think. And it's been going ever since.
Deborah, you're newer to this operation, I know, but for those who have not seen the Revels, we're going to talk specific. You can talk specifically about this year if you choose, but describe, it's an extravaganza. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Describe the night to people.
Well, I'll have to say that my introduction to it was when I was an actor in it in 2003. Oh,
I know that.
You do? All right.
Well, I mean, I read what I'm given. And you're an actor in it, so I know you're an actor in it.
So for 4 years running, because I fell in love with this vision of bringing people together, that's passionate chorus, volunteers who sing at a really high level, and then there are kids, and then there's spectacle of, and a story, an epic story. So I feel like there's nothing like it. It's totally unique. It's theater, but it's not a play. It's music, but it's not a concert. It's huge, and it has a huge heart. And I think the space itself is so magical.
Oh, Sanders is
Sanders Theater. But
it's like living inside a heart.
Well, and also, before you're going in, you're seeing all these plaques on the wall about Harvard alum that had died, not only just in the Civil War, but they have the battles they died in, Gettysburg, or the different lists. It's an incredible place. And, of course, many of us went there for many years to see Brian O'Donovan's Christmas Celtic Sojourn. We've just lost him, and we still miss him.
Brian is a great friend of Rebels. He was.
Well, can we talk about that? When you described the origin of this 50 plus years ago, it sounded exactly like what Brian did 4 decades later with the Celtic Sojourn.
Funny enough, he was on our board.
I know that.
And he listened carefully and he looked carefully. and at one point he asked me to come and do that, but no. So Celtic Sojourn, I think, was sort of a model. It's parallel to Revels. It's parallel. And it's much more on the musical side, I think, but it has the dance, it has the kids, and it has that chair. right?
It
He
does
sits in and he
indeed.
tells his story.
You know, Deborah, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I hate participatory anything, by the
Ah.
way. And the only two Christmas things I've ever been to in my life where I felt comfortable enough, in fact, excited to participate. Keith Lockhart was here the other day.
Yeah.
Christmas Pops is great. And going to the Rebels a number of times. Even people like me get swept up in the thing. What is that?
Yes.
I'm serious. Well,
What's the magic?
No,
What's
I'm
the
serious.
thing that makes it possible for you
for
to
antisocial
sing?
people like me, I'm really, you sing softly and then all of a sudden you get caught up in it and you really, you can't stay, you get marching around and all this other
Yeah,
stuff.
people get up and dance into the
know.
lobby.
Right.
When does that? Willingly. Like
Willingly.
hundreds of people.
Exactly.
Led by David.
I'd say partially it's that guy over there, David
Yes,
Coffin, who
yes.
says, "Here we go," and grabs somebody out of the audience and off they go.
Can you go to the mic? Can we talk to David? Oh, you're out of Mike. Let's call to Mike.
Here I
That's
am.
why you're there. Who are these people? I don't mean by name. You know, we don't have enough time.
Well, here's Mark and June.
Okay, fine. Talk into the mic. Are they these? Who are they?
This is the Revels chorus.
Yeah.
This is the backbone of Revels, is the chorus, and they're all volunteer.
That's incredible.
They're not necessarily professional, and that is really the backbone, the heart of Revels, as Deborah was saying. It's a big heart, and here's most of the heart right here.
And 34 years for Patty. Isn't it 40? How long have you been doing this?
This will be 44 years.
What's up with that?
I know, I have to get out more.
No, really? What is that about?
It's a commitment to a good time. They
Well-
call it a job. I'm not quite sure what that's about. But
Okay.
I show up. They haven't kicked me out yet.
Okay, do you mind? Like, let's do it, okay?
Okay.
What are we going to hear first?
We're going to sing Sing Me Noel. And I'm looking at my music director on my left, asking permission to talk, but that's a first.
That's Elijah Botkin, and we're going to talk about him in a minute.
We are?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
A little bit.
And is this a participatory kind of thing?
Absolutely. So I'm
Okay.
going to be listening for you in particular.
Oy, gosh.
Because
Go
you
ahead.
set yourself up.
I did.
So I think the audience out here, we have a live audience out here. So put your sandwiches down. It's time to sing. We kept it very simple. You have one line. You sing that line again and again every time I look at you. And if you're in radio land, just imagine I'm looking at you. But sing at your radio. And you have the words in front of you. Your part, for the most part, is Sing Me Noel, Noel, Noel. So go, sing we Noel, Noel, Noel. Let's do that once. Here we go. Sing we Noel, Noel, Noel. So every time I look at you, you sing that part. On the third verse, you sing all the words you have in front of you on the verse. You'll learn it as we get there, all right? We'll sing it twice before you get there. So here we go.
Over the snowy hills the travelers go. Sing we Noel, Noel, Noel. Calling to wake the sleeping sound below. Sing we Noel, Noel, Noel. We bring you joy upon this star that breaks the darkness from afar. Sing we Noel, Noel, Noel. Nearer they come, their voices clear and high. Sing we Noel, Noel, Noel. Calling their promise to the frosty sky. Sing we Noel, Noel, Noel. We bring you the
That was great. That was great.
You know-
Thank you. What's that?
I almost heard you.
Yeah, I almost sang. So that's why you almost heard me.
David, you just mentioned before that that the chorus is made up of volunteers, and I was stunned to hear that. I was stunned to hear that the Tanglewood chorus
Yeah.
sings are made up of volunteers. So there's something terribly appealing about what you people do because you're devoting lots of hours to
Well,
something.
it keeps us coming back. It keeps the audience coming back, too, year after year. There are audience members who've been here since 1971.
Wow.
So you wanted to say something about Elijah? Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Who is this guy?
Elijah Botkin. He's our new music director.
Hello, Elijah. Welcome.
And he has he's assembled all of the instrumentals. He's been working with the chorus, bringing them up to a semi-professional level. But we're going to have viels and rebecks and lutes and dulcians and bagpipes and pipcorns and God knows what, as well as a brass ensemble. And a big chorus and kids.
Yeah,
So
what do the kids do?
kids do everything. They're actually a very important part of it. They do kids' games. A lot of traditional music carries a lot of information with it, and it's in those children's songs. So they play games and they sing, and they interact with our clowns.
We're talking to Patty Swanson and Deborah Wise from the Rebels. This is not just a Christmas deal, Deborah, correct?
That's right. Rebels celebrates cycles of nature all through the year. So summer solstice and the fall and spring equinox as well.
Did you know that you started by acting in this? Are you aware of that? In 2004, 5, and 6. Why are you leaving, Patty? What's the deal?
Well, I celebrated my 80th birthday a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, my
Happy
goodness.
birthday, my
Wow.
friend.
So,
You and Mick Jagger, same deal.
yeah, I know. Actually, we came from I went to school in Twickenham, and he was in Richmond, and we were.
Were they next to each other?
Yeah, right next to each other.
How tight were you two?
How tight?
Yeah.
Well, we're not on speaking terms.
I just overheard you saying, though, that you wished you were Lou Reed.
I did wish I was. Yeah, that's absolutely.
Well, he's one of the greats. So why are you? What's the deal?
Well, I mean, I could go on and just drop, I suppose, but that would leave a lot of mess to clean up. So,
It's a hell of an image.
Yeah. So I think it's better to sort of find.
But it's hard when you're leaving something that brings so much joy.
Yeah.
I assume to you and so many. That's hard, right?
Well, I can go and look at the shows.
No, I
right?
understand
I mean,
that.
and I can participate.
Okay, fine.
And he's made so much possible. I mean, I'm not going to lie. He's big shoes to walk into.
Yeah.
Patty's.
Yeah.
You've been directing a show since 1989.
That's true.
And you've brought theater and story into the Rebels. It didn't exist before. So.
Deborah,
somewhat.
you just mentioned not just Christmas, summer solstice, and all that kind of thing. So these are, elaborate on that. What does that mean?
Well, this is Midwinter Rebels is the big show
Yeah.
of the year. But especially before COVID, the summer celebration was huge. The
Okay.
fall
Yeah.
river sing was huge. Parades going from Harvard Square down to the river, and
We worked with the
collaborative
Children's
events, the
Museum.
Children's Museum, bringing in Caribbean artists and folks from the Asian community. I think that's what we're going to get back to now that we're beyond the pandemic.
So Elijah, go back to that. You new to this deal?
Oh, yeah, just last year.
And where'd you come from?
Oh, I worked in tech for a while.
You did? That's a natural transition, I guess, for most
Absolutely.
people. So what's the magic of this to you as the new kid in town?
It's really the audience participation part. That's certainly what drew me in. And
Did you
I
hear
remember,
that, Jim?
I did.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I don't have to like it. I heard it. Go ahead.
I remember going to my first rehearsal and just seeing the joy and the love on everyone's faces, especially the chorus. And that's my background is choir. I'm a choir conductor, and these folks to my left, I was going to say behind me, but no. These folks to my left are really, like David said, the heart and soul.
Well, we all know choir's huge in the tech sector. We all know that. So what kind of how diverse is, where do these people come from? All these volunteers. I mean, are they all different kinds of lives and work? And who are these people?
I think so. One thing I've noticed is that everybody loves to party. We'll have an all-day rehearsal, and then it's like, okay, is everybody going over to Ned's house?
So how much, speaking of rehearsal, how much goes into doing this from people who are volunteers?
We start in September.
For this?
Yeah. I mean, we start planning the show way earlier than that, but we audition usually in the spring, and then we start rehearsals in September, and it's just one day a week for a while. And then we have 3 Saturdays, which are 9 to 5, jam-packed with stuff. We're about tomorrow, we actually bring all of the elements together, the band and the kids.
Actors,
and the
local
actors.
Boston area actors, and some guest artists from out of
Right.
state who are really awesome. Actors and professional clowns. We have Roger Reed.
Yeah, Renee Collins,
And Renee
Vincent
Collins.
Siders, Eliza Fichter, Deborah's
You're not allowed
daughter.
to say that
I think
Liza's my
Deborah was
daughter.
a surprise, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll wait for that now, yeah.
But included, we've got, I was just thinking, we've got clowns, an angel, 2 dragons, a French chef, and a skeleton.
What more could you ask,
What more
right?
could you ask
So
for?
how many performers all told, Deborah? Everybody in the cast here, would you say?
85.
85? Okay, I was going
How
to say
great
80.
is that? Isn't that great? I mean, that is...
And it's a
really-
small stage.
Yeah. Well, Sanders is one of the great venues. It's such a beautiful place.
It's all that hard wood.
Yeah.
It's hundreds and hundreds. I mean, it's pretty damn old, isn't it, Sanders
is,
Theater?
yeah.
And it looks beautiful. We just got a text from Miriam who says her brother, Patrick English, was the Green Knight years ago in the Revels. And she said, we miss him and are so happy the Revels keeps going.
That is right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You remember him?
He was enormous. He also played Leonardo da Vinci in an Italian show. That we
really?
did. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so David, where are you?
Yeah.
What's happening this time?
We're going to do a song called Traveler's Prayer, written by John Renborn, but arranged by our very own Elijah Botkin.
Elijah's the new one, you know.
Yeah, the new kid.
He's been here like
He's
a
the
year.
new kid on the block.
He is.
Yeah.
Our new kid on the block.
I got it. That's a good one. The Revels, yet again.
And we're going to follow it up immediately, I think, with a poem called The Shortest Day, which has been said in every Revels throughout the country, the whole time that we're here, written by Susan Cooper. And the end, I say, welcome Yule, and the response is, welcome Yule. There you
I think
go.
we can handle that.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Shall we introduce our soloist?
Oh,
indeed.
Hi, soloist.
Bobby.
Who are you?
My name is Barbara Hill.
Hi, Barbara Hill. What's your deal? Well, since we can't talk to all 20, what's your day thing?
I started started going to Rebels when I was 6 years old, and then I did my first Rebels in 2005 as a volunteer in the choir, and did my first pro Rebels in 2021, and I'm back again this year as the tradition bearer and soloist.
That's fabulous.
Full circle.
Welcome. We're really excited.
Yay.
Rebels, take it away.
Oh, and I met my husband in Rebels.
Even better. See here?
No.
Okay, fine.
Praise to the moon, bright queen of the skies, jewel of the black night, the light of our eyes, brighter than starlight, whiter than snow. Look down on us in the darkness below. If well you should find us, then well let us stay. Be it 7 times better when you make your way. Be it 7 times better when we greet the dawn. So light up our way and keep us from harm. Give strength to the weary, give alms to the poor, to the tainted and needy 5 senses restore. Give song to our voices, give sight to our eyes, to see the sun bow as the new moon shall rise. Cast your eyes downwards to our dwelling place, 3 times for favor and 3 times for grace. Over the dark clouds your face for to see, to banish misfortune and keep Trinity. In the name of the waters that spring from the earth, in the name of the rivers to whom they gave birth,
So the shortest day came, and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing, to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight this shortest day. As promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And so do we, here, now, this year, and every year. Welcome, Yule.
Welcome, Yule! That was fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We've been hearing music from Midwinter Rebels, The Feast of Fools. Their show runs December 15th through the 28th of December, a little longer if you're opting to experience the virtual version. For more information and to get tickets, the website is revels.org. That's REVELS, revels.org. Thank you all so much for being here. After a quick break, a change in tone. I had Jim push it off while I was away yesterday. It's time for the MI, the A-hole segment, right here on Boston Public Radio. This week, a man fell asleep during his granddaughter's 40-minute musical recital at school, a play actually entitled, is this the guy, the grandfather that fell asleep? I'm goofing this up.
You're explaining it quite well, I think.
Okay.
Actually.
The grandfather who fell asleep
Exactly.
during the grandkids' 40-minute play.
Thank you.
Is he entitled to get a recording of that play? We will ask you, is the mother who won't give it to him or the grandfather who fell asleep the jerk in this situation? The numbers are 877-301-8970, 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at facebook.com/GBH News and youtube.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Before we get into MI the A-hole, our staff has had evil smiles on their faces all day today. They gifted us, each of us, a totally black mug with a white inside, and they said when you pour hot coffee in it, which they provided, something appears, and I think to satisfy them, because they've been talking about it all day, let's do it and see what happens. We're pouring the coffee, if you're not watching on whatever you call it, YouTube or Facebook. And absolutely nothing is appearing.
Nothing is happening.
It's fabulous. I love it. Absolutely nothing.
Well, I think maybe we have to wait. Oh, my goodness, it's starting to appear.
What is it exactly?
I think this is about the mortadella. Liliana from Fall River.
No.
The lady that talked about how ridiculous it was that somebody
Prosciutto.
sued over slipping on a piece of prosciutto at Italy down the street.
That's right.
Sued for $50,000. And this is this a Christmas gift for us here? Is that what this kind of
And
is?
it's a quote from Liliana?
A quote, yep.
That is pretty fabulous.
Prosciutto does not have the greasy shine that mortadella has or capicola. That's what Lillian said, and Lillian is correct.
That is it's called our...
Thank you.
It's called our meat mug. It's pretty great. It's pretty great.
We'll use this every week at the Boston Public Library,
Well,
okay?
speak for yourself, actually.
Okay.
I don't know about
All
me.
right.
It is very nice, and we thank you, whoever else is responsible. And Liliana,
Very
we love
clever.
you wherever you are out there.
By the way,
One of
this
our
is a great
favorites.
Christmas gift for people. You pour the hot coffee in, and it comes...
Does it turn black when you pour the coffee out of it? It turns back. So, Marjorie, you can re-gift it. Don't
You
tell
can
anybody.
re-gift
Exactly.
it. That's right.
Okay, so here's the
Here's
deal.
your Christmas present, Jim.
Okay, fine. We're done with this. We held off on this yesterday. Marjorie was busy doing something, watching Secretariat or whatever.
That's right.
The time has come for our usual Thursday afternoon segment, Am I the A-hole? For the uninitiated, there's a forum on Reddit where everyday people post their real-life ethical dilemmas, to put it elegantly. The idea is to open things up for community feedback and decide who is or isn't the proverbial a-hole. We take what we consider the best ones and present them to you. This week, a grandfather is in town from overseas visiting his family. He manages to make it to his granddaughter's first ever school play. It's 40 minutes long. But he, like so many other grandfathers before him, starts to doze off, snoring loudly enough that people could hear. His daughter, who's the mother of the girl performing, tried waking him up, but whatever she did wasn't enough. Now, thankfully, the mother did have the foresight to video record her daughter's performance. But she was so angry at her father, the grandfather, for falling asleep, she refuses to share the video of the show with him. So, Marjorie and listeners, who is the a-hole? Is it the mother denying grandpa the tapes of his granddaughter's first ever school play, or is the grandfather the a-hole for falling asleep in the first place, to the extent that no, he shouldn't be able to watch the tape itself? 877-301-8970.
Okay,
So go ahead.
there are some extenuating circumstances
What
here.
are they?
Apparently, Grandpa's a real party animal. He was out until 3 a.m. in the morning,
Yeah.
the night before the school play. He spends all his time, instead of hanging out with his grandkids, he's running around with the old friends from home,
What's
morning
wrong
and
with that?
afternoons. Well, that's part of the reason that he fell asleep. And apparently, he snores so badly
Yeah.
that even after you keep trying to wake him up in the play,
Yeah.
he let out a snore so loud
Yeah.
that kids on the stage noticed it, including his mortified granddaughter.
He's old and he was sleeping.
He's old. He's not that old. He's he's 68.
Who cares?
I mean, he's not
What-
like 88.
Who's the a-hole?
Well, I think that the
Oh, here
mother,
she goes.
the
Who's the
mother
a-hole?
should rise above and give Grandpa the tape.
So she's the a-hole.
She is. Well, I think there's a-hole qualities on either side, but
Oh,
I would
you
say
not-
in
I
this
hate when you do this.
Okay,
Who's
you
the
go.
a-hole?
You go ahead then.
I'll tell you, it's the grandfather.
The grandfather. Okay.
Stay awake for the damn performance.
Stay awake for the damn play.
If you want to stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning, that is perfectly fine. Your granddaughter's doing this thing. It matters a lot to her. Put toothpicks in your eyes, whatever you got to do. Stay awake for 40 minutes and then start snoring.
Okay.
Okay?
I think Mom could have risen above and
Who?
given him. Mother could have risen above and
Screw
given
him.
him the tape.
Don't give him the
even though
tape.
he snores terribly, fell asleep, and parties with his friends until 3 o'clock in the morning. Kira from Concord, what do you think?
Hey, Kara, what's up?
Goody. Hey, you too.
Hi, you.
I'm going to give you an actual vignette of this, okay? You ready?
Yeah, I think we are.
My grandfather and my grandmother didn't come all the way from, overseas.
Yeah.
But they did, actually, way back when. But
Oh.
anyway, that's lineage. But no, never mind. A lot of us did. But anyway, honestly, I did. I was actually in, I was in a choir, and I had a solo piece, and I was the understudy. And I didn't know that I was going to have to do this because someone wasn't feeling well.
Sure.
So said, okay, and I had signed up, but they signed me up, really, because there were 3 of us.
Okay.
And I said, okay, fine, I'll write the occasion. I don't mind. I'm here, and I'm all ready. So anyway.
Hey, Kira, let me just interrupt. It's a great story. The show's over in 20 minutes. So, no, it's fine. I just want to give you an outside time here. So go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, I'll try to strum along here.
Please.
Okay, so quicking this up. So just to let you know, my grandmother and my grandfather, they both dozed asleep.
Oh.
And I saw them, but I was smiling, and it
Oh.
actually made my performance even better because I knew that they were also kept peeking open their eyes.
Oh.
And I feel that my grandparents were so wonderful because they'll be our viewers anyway all the time.
Yeah.
And my mom and my everyone weren't upset.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the mom should rise above.
Exactly.
That was
Exactly,
an excellent
Kira.
story, Kira, and
beautiful
Marjorie is very
Ellen
happy.
love.
Thank you. Kira, and I hope you did well as a fill-in there. We really...
I did.
Well,
I did even better because my grandparents I knew were so happy and they were listening.
That's beautiful.
There you go.
That's a lovely story, Kira.
guys. That's
Thank you
all.
for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it.
Apparently, there's a lot of big nappers in our audience, Jim. They're all talking about, one guy says he's a pharmacist. He worked overnights as a pharmacist for 15 years when his kids were little, and he fell asleep during their performances regularly, and he even snored once. That's Carol from Lincoln, Rhode Island. And somebody else wants to know if the grandfather was Joe Biden.
That's not funny. That's really not funny.
Temetra from Hull. If I pronounced it correctly, I hope.
Hey, Temetra, what's up?
It's Demetra. And
Oh,
I'm
Demetra. Sorry.
But
Go ahead.
anyway, longtime listener, and I think there are two a-holes.
Oh, I love
and
that.
it is not the grandfather.
Oh.
It's the mom, because she was too busy videotaping to really be present and wake her dad up.
Excellent point, Temetra.
And the director who put on a boring show.
That's another.
Don't you wonder all the time about the people that go and they videotape the whole play of the show? And you're always
Videotape the
right.
whole lives of their children.
And they miss it because they're
Exactly.
so busy videotaping. They're looking through the lens
Right.
of the whole
Demetra's
performance.
point.
Then you wonder how many times you actually want to watch an hour and a half school
Exactly.
play from the second grade.
40
It's sort of
minutes.
painful. Well, that one was 40 minutes, but other ones are longer. So that's a great call. Thank you very
Temetra,
much.
thank you for making that call. We appreciate it.
877-301-8970, 877-301-8970. Everybody's voting on my side,
No,
Jim.
did
I
you
want
notice
you to know.
this? Every single person at the Newsfeed Cafe is asleep. That is, I've never seen this before. Wake up! Oh, there they go. Okay, fine. What?
Listen to this.
What?
I may be the a-hole for sharing this, but my dad was shirtless on a Zoom call for my niece's preschool graduation, thinking the video was off. My brother did not prep him on how Zoom worked. Imagine that.
Do you believe it's the first time Jeffrey Toobin's daughter ever texted us? 877-301-8970. Who is the a-hole? The daughter, grown daughter, who says, I'm not going to share the video of your grand performance because it is so selfish that you fell asleep and snored, or is it the grandfather who didn't have the decency to stay awake during the performance, the first performance ever by his dear little granddaughter?
Mom is the a-hole twice over. I hate all the other parents with their cameras out of the kids' performances, blocking the view of the stage for
That's another good
everyone
point.
else around them. Let the school tape a master recording and put the cameras away.
You know, by the way, this isn't our topic, but you've spoken to it, Temetra did, and that person did.
Mm-hmm.
It is an offensive behavior. I mean, not only blocking people, but you can't focus on the damn thing. And you make another great point, which is how often do you ever look at the video to begin with?
Well, I don't know.
Like
I don't
never.
think you'd look at that much. Here's Paul from Worcester.
do you
If he were an old, frail grandpa, the mom would be the a-hole. If he chooses to be hungover for his granddaughter's recital, he's the a-hole, and they should have left him in his car to sleep it off and given him nothing. Sounds like alcoholic behavior to me, says
Wow.
Paul.
Elizabeth in Gloucester, you're next on Boston Public Radio. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Yes, hi. I think that it's terrible that the mother won't let the grandfather watch it because she's also punishing her child.
That's a good
And what
point.
a nice thing it would be to sit down, to have the grandfather and the child sit down, watch it together,
Oh.
and talk about it and laugh about it and just have this great memory. I mean, what good is it going to do to punish him? What, forever? He'll never get to see it?
That is
Exactly.
a brilliant
Exactly.
analysis, Elizabeth.
Oh,
Let the
you're-
two
you're
of
in
them
the-
see it together.
Elizabeth and the previous caller and myself, we're all in the rise above category, Jim.
Huh.
You're not, of course.
Elizabeth, I've never been on the rise
No, you-
above category about anything. Elizabeth in Gloucester, you're next on Boston Public Radio. Thank you so much
That
for
was
calling.
Elizabeth in Gloucester. We're going
Oh,
to Amanda
Elizabeth.
in Cambridge now. Hi,
Whatever.
Amanda.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
I think we're good. What's your deal?
Sorry?
This is where you say, so here's my position. Go ahead, Amanda.
Oh,
Hi.
Okay, well, I think that she's in the wrong. I think she should just let him listen to the show. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's the rise to the occasion. The other thing is that if she's really concerned, if she could, if she really wants to think that she's sticking it to him, the other thing to note is that the footage of him falling asleep.
That's a great
and
idea.
so forth, or the reaction to it at least, is going to be on the video anyway. So if she really wants to make her point, then then while he's watching the video, he'll notice the kids reacting to the fact that he fell asleep and
That is
snoring.
a brilliant analysis.
I think that would be
right. If she wants to punish him, she can short sheet his bed when he stays
That's right.
over.
Or the snore where it's so loud
great.
that everybody hears him from the
Amanda,
from the
that was
stage.
excellent. Thank you. 877-301-8970. An interesting question asked by one of our colleagues. What if the daughter did allow the grandfather to see it and he fell asleep while watching the video? What would you think? What happens then?
I don't know why they just don't give him a triple shot of espresso and so he can stay awake.
Also, it's not like he's 100. As you said, he's
68. That's right. It's not
awake.
like he's like a 90-year-old guy. Not only is Grandpa the a-hole, says Matt from Narragansett, but he sounds like a Royal Tenenbaum. You seen that movie?
Of course.
That's a pretty good Christmas movie. Yeah.
877-301-8970. Let's go out to Worcester, where Margaret is on the phone. Who is the a-hole, Margaret?
Well, I'm in Woburn.
Wherever. It's close enough.
But I don't consider that word one to apply to the other. They were both bad.
Right.
Bad.
Grandfather should have had a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
His party left, and the daughter's responsibility was to go over there, knowing how her father snores, and make sure he was awake and prepared. She should have put down the video camera and nudged him and made sure he was awake.
That's right.
And then afterwards get someone else's videotape and show it to him.
Margaret,
it's not just a courtesy.
You are another fabulous thinker and caller. Thank you for your excellent analysis, and thank you for participating in the show.
Here's a couple more
at
texts.
877-301-8970.
The daughter is a huge a-hole. Give him a break. He went with good intentions. Be grateful he's still alive. That's a good one.
That's really not terribly nice. It's really not.
Unfortunately, naps happen. Of course, she should share the tape with him. And Rebecca in Boston says, the mother is the a-hole. Give the guy a break. He came all that way. He's tired. Didn't you ever fall asleep in a performance? I suspect the kids' play was not very exciting.
By the way, that's a really interesting point that I'd forgotten. The guy came from overseas to do this thing.
He came a long way.
Which is tiring, is it not?
Yeah, but her point is that he really came not to see her children or help her take care of the new baby, but to go out till 3 o'clock in the morning with his high school buddies or something like that. Well, he's a grandfather.
What do you do when you go home to Fall River?
a lot of cavorting, Jim.
What's the name of that place you go to that you love that I'm never going to badmouth again? What's that place?
Magoni's.
Which is really good.
A lot of big spots in
You
Fall
took me
River.
there once.
I did.
And by the way,
we're not going to go into it, Jim.
No, I'm not going to criticize it because the fact that you can play Keno while you're having spaghetti right on your table is fat. No, that's a good. No.
This is where my family does like after funeral parties and stuff like that, Jim.
So
I take a lot of grief.
Wait,
about
they play Keno after the
No,
funeral?
they have the dinners.
Reception?
The reception, yeah. But Magoni's, I think it might be closing.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, they couldn't fix
Where do
the
they play
O
Keno,
and N
then?
and the overhead sign.
So they had to
They've been
shut
out
it
for
down?
a long time.
So they had to close?
Yeah,
That's
they've been
really
trying to
sad
fix it since
story.
1972.
Isn't Ryan Landry supposed to be showing up?
He's right behind us.
Oh.
He's right over
I guess
there.
he did show up.
Ann from
Okay.
Barrington, what do you think, Ann?
I think no one is thinking about the granddaughter and
Excellent
whether
point.
or not she wants her grandfather to see the recording. I assume she does. I assume she'd like that. And that's what should be the determining factor, not the mother getting back at the grandfather.
Yeah. And can I ask you a question? When you go out to dinner, do you prefer a place where you can play Keno while you're eating, or do you not?
No, I prefer not to.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Did you see
Thank
the pictures? The pictures?
I did.
Magoni's,
Looks like
Ferry
a
Landing
looks
in
fabulous.
Somerset. It's across
And
the
thank
street
you.
from Fall River, actually.
I know where it is.
Right by the old Brighton Street
took me
Bridge
there
there.
like 30
I
years
did,
ago,
a long time
20
ago.
years ago or
There it is,
something.
Magoni's.
Looks good.
Yeah, they couldn't fix
Looks
the...
like they could fix the sign.
Well, the sign was not fixed. It was
It's a
it was an
little
ongoing American tragedy.
But it's really nice with the Keno things on the table. It's
It
very
was
nice.
really nice, and they had great cinnamon rolls there at
They do?
Magoni's. Yeah, great prime rib too, Jim.
Do you remember we went to Pier 4 with listeners many years ago?
I do.
And,
We had
everybody
the
talks about the
popovers.
rolls. The popovers were
Popovers,
great.
yep.
No one told us that the cheese was cheese whiz, which really was a little, it's one thing to have cheese whiz
it's
on a
old
cheese
style.
steak, but it's gone.
It is gone, but there's a new place.
You and I have both been there. Woods Hill, whatever.
Pier
It's
4.
fabulous.
It's great, and you
It's
would never,
fabulous.
you can't believe
No
that.
Cheese Whiz there.
No, Cheese Whiz.
exactly.
No, it's a lot of small place.
Peter in Connecticut, what's your deal? I mean, who's the a-hole? Whatever.
Hey.
Hello.
The a-hole, she's the a-hole. I can't believe how petty
daughter
petty
is?
she is.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
Petty.
It's just it's unbelievable that this is even in question.
That's right.
it?
She's supposed to rise above. See, Peter's another one who wants to
It's
rise
very
above.
concise there,
Everybody
Peter.
wants to rise above, but Jim, I think that says something all of us can relate to.
Peter, thank you for the call. I think we have time for one more, Marjorie.
Okay, one
so you
more.
know where you want to go.
Are we going to go? Okay, Maureen in Cambridge. Thank you, Maureen.
Hey there.
Hi.
Marjorie, I agree with you. The mother should definitely rise above it.
Absolutely.
I'm hearing all the comments, and I think people are forgetting. You mentioned about jet lag. in the
That's right,
beginning.
jet lag.
He
Good
traveled.
No, that's a very good point.
Possibly trying to, get back to the calendar and fell
Excellent
asleep.
point.
That's right. He came from another continent, Jim.
I know he did.
Exactly.
And then daylight saving time screwed
Daylight
him up
saving
and all that
wasn't
sort of
easy.
stuff. Okay, enough of that. Maureen,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Mother,
Now-
I just want to say the winning vote is the mother was the big a-hole by
It's really
about
not
20
much.
to 1.
Okay, fine. We're
Or
going to
maybe
wrap up.
40 to 1.
Okay, fine.
Or
We're going
2.
to wrap up this week to talk to our friend Ryan Landry,
That's
who
right.
looks disgusted already. He's a playwright, lyricist, actor, and founder of the great Gold Dust Orphans theatrical company, which I sort of think we are part of now, but that's a whole other topic. His latest, The Rocky Menorah Christmas Show, is running now through December 23rd at the Iron Wolf Theater, which is a great theater. It's South Boston, Lithuanian Hall. Great, restaurants in the neighborhood. WBUR has reviewed the show, and they said it was then hilarious or a-hilarious and harmonious two-act tale. They did. And by the way, even though it features two radio hosts, it's amazing they didn't make it into the review, and I don't hold that against anybody. I'm really big on to get your tickets, you go to Brown Paper Tickets and search for Rocky Menorah Christmas Show. By the way, Ryan always says that you don't need to do that. You go Gold Dust Orphans and Boston, and you search it, and you go to brownpapertickets.com. How's it going so far, Ryan?
Oh, it's going incredible. James, thank you for asking. And I have to say, that last segment was a gay man's dream. I mean, so many a-holes to choose from. But I want to talk a little bit about that kind of thing. I will tell you a quick story. I took my mother to the theater. She'd never been to the theater in her entire life. I swear to God, she'd never. She grew up in the woods of Maine. I took her to see Annie.
Oh, that's a good one.
She fell asleep, but my mother had dentures, and when the dentures slipped, the snoring was really loud coming through the dentures. I'm telling you, Sandy, the dog, even looked up. So front row of the balcony, can you imagine?
Enough
and then
about
she wanted to
you.
go to Beefsteak Charlie's
Oh, my goodness. Poor
Ryan,
mom.
be honest as you can be. What is the reception? We voice a couple of puppets in this production.
Yeah.
What has
Well,
the audience reaction been to Marjorie and my performance?
Yeah, Ryan forced me to say some very bad words,
Yes,
too.
yes. Well, I want to say, first and foremost, to all our studio audience
Thank
and those
you.
listening at home,
Thank you.
that I have really raked James over the coals. I've really made him look like the #1 a-hole.
Really?
And I have to say, James, you are the greatest, but he really is a good sport, folks.
Thank
because,
you.
listen, once you see the show, you'll see you would never want to hang out with James the puppet at all.
But you didn't answer my question. What is the audience reaction
They're
to
loving
Jim
it.
and Marjorie the
Especially
puppets?
when Marjorie dresses up in leather, whips your ass, and
That's
then
right.
throws you out the window.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to wear that outfit tonight to the performance.
By the way, can I tell you something? We should say 12 of us from the BPR thing.
All free
I
tickets.
said
Can you
12
all free tickets,
are
that's
going
right.
to tonight's
We're going
performance
tonight.
of the Rocky Menorah, whatever the hell it is.
Have to put the ATM machine on the way
Whatever
home to
the
hand
hell
out
it is.
tips. Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, you got a great review from BUR. They talk about the impressive use of props and rocket ship and horse and a giant open-mouthed toothy monster. And you, of course...
But I can't tell you what that monster does.
Oh, you can't?
It's
I can
really
guess.
filthy.
Really?
It's really filthy.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, don't bring the kids to this.
Don't bring the
do
kids.
not
No, it's a
bring the
grown-up.
kids.
It's a grown-up kind of thing. And you
Yeah.
play Hermione Grinchley.
Yeah, Hermione
And-
P. Grinch.
Yeah, excuse me.
The widow
P-
of the Grinch.
The widow of the Grinch.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still upset.
And
she's
nobody-
green-skinned.
Yeah, and nobody better fall asleep in this production, honey.
No. Well, that's the thing.
Especially with Marjorie there. She's from Fall River. She'll give him 40 whacks.
That's right. That's right. And gave her mother 41.
We know that.
That's right. So, but it's what's people have said to me that have seen it already. We've had a few people that have seen it already.
David
Talk about-
Leonard, the head of the library, came
Loves
over to
it.
us the other
Yeah.
morning.
Thank you,
Said it's your
Mr.
best show
Leonard.
ever.
Well, he was talking about how many changes there are in costumes and outfits. And
Well, it's a show.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, but that's not easy to do. I mean, do you have everybody with a little locker and their
Great question.
change of
No,
clothes
we just
in there?
we just we empty all the garbage bags on the floor and hope for the best.
Okay, so how much nudity is in this?
Oh, a little bit.
Yep.
That's too bad.
Nudity mixed with religion. I think that's an interesting.
Oh yeah, I think they're the best combo.
Yeah, twin.
I mean, that's Adam and Eve when you think about it.
That's
well,
an
but it's
excellent
true.
point.
Can you give us a hint of what that means? Nudity and religion?
You don't know what nudity means,
I
Marjorie,
do.
at this late
I
date?
do. Going back to maybe the Botticelli girls or kind of thing, the birth of Venus, or what are we talking about?
Oh no, it's not the birth of Venus, but it rhymes with Venus.
Oh, okay.
Jesus. Let me reiterate, because we're trying to entice you to go. By the way, it is as much fun
It's a blast.
as anything. But Ryan's not kidding. Do not bring your children.
Don't bring your children.
This is not
But-
a child.
I mean, if they're over 16,
no,
I
don't,
suppose.
No, I would say
You can have cocktails there too.
You can.
Oh yeah,
That's
they can't have drinks.
They can't, but the grown-ups can.
Yeah, the
and we
16-year-olds,
do.
no drinks. No.
Yep.
So we were describing Sandra's Theater to the people from the Rebels about 10 minutes ago. It was this incredibly beautiful place.
It is.
How would you describe Lithuanian Hall in South Boston?
Oh, I don't know. It's like a...
Exactly.
It's like the Raccoon Lodge from the Honeymooners.
Yeah,
It's
that's
terrific.
right.
It's a great big old theater, and it seats like 300 people, and the people are so kind there, and it's so fun, and the drinks are nice and strong.
The
Okay, I have
drinks are
30
great.
seconds.
It's basic.
Say
It's a
something.
basic kind of place, right?
Basic.
Well,
Yeah.
some of the stuff hasn't changed since the 30s, which is a dream for me.
Exactly.
I
Okay,
actually
make your
despise
final
modern
pitch.
architecture.
Excuse me,
There's
show's
no
over.
pitch to be made. Listen, if you've come to my shows before, you know how great they are, and if you haven't, you better get your ass there tonight or tomorrow because we're sold out for most of the rest of the week.
Whoa.
Good for
And tonight,
you.
you get to meet Marjorie Egan.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
And
Jim
11 of her
Browdy.
coworkers.
You can't
Yeah.
miss him. He's very tall.
And you might want to come and throw the real Jim out the window.
Thank
You
you.
never know.
Don't give it away.
I think it's on the
Don't
third
give it
floor. It
away.
could be an opportunity for us all, Ryan.
How do you get tickets, Marjorie?
You get tickets by going to the Gold Dust Orphans.
No.
Oh,
You
okay.
can.
How do you get tickets?
Brown paper tickets.
You just
Is
told me that
not-
was. You just told me that was ridiculous.
Well,
that
you
you
go
just go to
both.
the
You can go
Gold
to both.
The
Dust
name
Orphans.
of the show is the Rocky Menorah Christmas Show.
No one's remembering that.
No one
Rocky
cares.
Menorah
Okay,
Christmas
I cannot
Show.
wait. 7:30, we will be there with whatever on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
watch
you very
out
much.
if you
Yep.
fall asleep.
Yep.
I don't usually recommend crystal meth to the elderly, but if that's what it takes to keep you awake.
Our team
Ryan
is going to be
Landry,
there.
we
This is
love
our
him. Let's
team
hear it for Ryan
party.
Landry.
Thank you for
He
listening
is
to
one
another
talented you-know-what.
edition of Boston Public Radio. You can keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, a longer one, the whole show, and a half-hour one, which is the highlights. On Monday, we're going to be joined by our monthly transit panel, Jim Aloisi, Stacey Thompson. We're going to get what they think about what Phil Eng, the head of the MBTA, had to say to us today. The Ground Truth Project's Charlie Sennett, updating us on what's going on in Israel and Gaza. Misinformation researcher Joan Donovan, who's got a great story to tell. The Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett Price, and Amherst College's Elon Steffens. He's a new...
We've had him on before.
We've had
He's
him on
great.
before, but he's going to be here for a whole segment talking about
Great.
something different. I'm not sure what he's talking about, but he's
Neither
here. Anyway, I want to thank our crew that's going with us tonight. Zoe Matthews, Aidan Comley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Additional help from Ethan Kotler, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, and our executive producer, Jenny Bologna. Our on-site library help today came from Matthew Glover, Maddie Guy, Hannah McGoldrick, and Isabella Caron. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Ryan's wearing pajamas. See you tomorrow. See
Thanks
you tonight.
for tuning in. Bye.